Good evening, everyone. I'm Shanna Cox, Chair of the Lewiston Planning Board. I welcome all here this evening and officially call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Yes. Roger Dupree.
Here.
Michael Marcotte.
Present.
Lucy Bisson here. Shanna Cox.
Here.
Alexander Pine.
Here.
And Penthea Burns.
Here.
And Zoe Lindstrom.
Please
Here.
let the record reflect that Amy Smith is marked absent, and let us know that in advance today. And I believe it is Penthea's turn to become a voting member this evening.
Great.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Would you like to call our last member's name?
Mark Roy.
Here.
Thanks. Thanks so much. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
No, there are not.
We've received 2 pieces of correspondence at our desk. Is there anything you'd like to read into the record?
Just clarify what they are. So there's a comment from member Amy Smith, who couldn't be present this evening. And then there are some very minor adjustments to the draft TMP for 20 East Avenue.
Can you say that last part a little louder? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure. So there are some minor adjustments to the draft TMP, the traffic movement permit for 20 East Avenue project.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll get underway with our first public hearing this evening, which is Lewiston Housing Authority submitting an application for development review and subdivision amendment to the Phase 1 approval of the Martell School Apartments on a 3.2-acre lot at 860 Lisbon Street, the former Martell School. And I believe this is yours, Shelley.
Okay, so this project was approved, the first phase was approved in September of 2023. This evening, they're here before the board for some amendments to that approval. They outlined in their letter what those are. I also reiterated those and summarized them in my memo. I don't know if you want me to go through them and itemize those.
Not particularly, thank you. That's the amendment consists of the following changes section of the first page.
Yeah, yep.
Thanks.
And then there are a couple of staff suggestions for conditions of approval. And at this point in time, the issues that we had as staff are addressed, except as noted in the conditions of approval.
Thanks so much. Any questions for staff before we invite the applicant up? Great. Would welcome you on up, sir. Yeah. I know you've done this before, but if you both introduce yourself, that'd be great
Absolutely.
for the record. Feel free to grab any chair.
Good evening, all. I'm Penn Lindsay with Lewiston Housing.
I'm Craig Burgess with Acorn Engineering.
And Dan Moreno, Platts Associates, architect.
Is there anything you'd like to offer? Do you just want to respond to inquiries from the planning board? I know I've been here before. You and I connected previously a little bit about the fact that there's been some changes in the cost of construction that drove you to some of these amendments. Is there anything you wanted to begin with?
Sure, just brief overview. Excited to be back in front of the planning board because that means we're very close to moving forward with this project. This is a project that is financed through Maine Housing, and one of the specifics of the Maine Housing application is that you do need to have planning board approval, and that gives you a lot of additional points in their scoring system. So it's not unusual to come before this board for our approvals a little sooner than we might otherwise. So we're back here, I think, just for some what we think of relatively minor changes to our plan. We're actually very proud of the fact that we've been able to keep our project more or less exactly as we originally presented it. And I do have both our civil engineer and architect here to answer any specific or technical questions that might come up. So thank you.
Thanks so much. Lucy.
This is a question from me and from Ms. Smith. It's discussed in your engineering letter, and that in surface materials, it talks about pathways, you know, that you've changed the material for the pathways, that's fine. but it talks about the pedestrian pathway connecting residents to East Avenue and nearby Shaw's, and has been shifted, blah, blah, blah. Well, where in the blazes is it on your blueprint? Where's the path to Shaw's? Excellent.
So that would be right here.
So that's the path to East Avenue. That's not a path to Shaw's.
Shaw's is right here.
Yeah, I know where it is. I'm just saying that, so you're not doing a path directly to Shaw's. You're going to have me, because I'm your people.
Target demographic.
Yeah, I am your demographic. To walk down to East Avenue and then walk along that, there's no sidewalk along there. Is there?
There is a sidewalk.
There
on
is a
East Avenue.
sidewalk in there?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to have to walk in the snow, rain, or whatever. I'm going to have to walk to East Avenue and walk all the way to Shaw's.
Yes, the design is the safest path to get to Shaw's. On that edge of the site, unfortunately, there's a grade change that doesn't allow for a pathway to be built. And so what we've done is we've put the path directly out from the building to East Avenue and then access from there up, to the Shaw's, which is adjacent.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and as Dan points out, the other challenge, we did look into this, and we thought that it would make a ton of sense to put a walkway in, if we could, directly from the building over to Shaw's. Unfortunately, if we were to get across that ditch, which was challenging, where we would arrive is right into the driving aisle for all the cars coming in. There's no sidewalk that it would meet up with on that side, on the Shaw's side of the property.
Yeah, but doesn't, I'm going to go up, so where's the sidewalk, on the right or on the left of, if I'm East Avenue facing Planet Hollywood or whatever the Planet Fitness at this point, is the sidewalk on the left or on the right? So I'm going to have to cross that driveway somehow at one point or other. Can you show me the bigger blueprint again?
There's a sidewalk on East Avenue.
Yeah, I understand
there's-
that, but I'm talking about the curved street
He was
here.
about to finish answering.
Sorry.
And there's a crosswalk. There is no sidewalk on that entry to Shaw's.
Yeah.
It's just a roadway.
Well, that's what I was saying,
Yeah.
and somebody said there was a sidewalk.
Yeah,
So
no.
there is not a sidewalk in that roadway to Shaw's.
Right, and,
So I'm going to be walking in the road.
right, and what we originally tried to do was to make the walkway go from behind Martel straight up through.
Yes.
Right up to Shaw's.
Yeah.
The problem is there's no sidewalk once you're on the Shaw's property on that end either. The sidewalk is nowhere near it.
Right, but I've still got to cross that street, whether there are trucks coming or cars coming,
Do you have the ability to put in a sidewalk on Shaw's property that they own?
We do not.
Okay.
Thanks.
Have you talked to Shaw's about it?
We have not, because
You got seniors,
Roger, can you pull your mic, and I want to recognize Alex next, as he had his hand raised.
you've got seniors now that are walking, and a lot of them have difficulty walking. Now, you're asking them to go up East Avenue, which has a high traffic area, turn right onto Shaw's driveway to get to the bus stop. Wouldn't it be easier if you talked to Shaw's and see that it would be conducive to them and you to get together to put some sort of a sidewalk on the upper end of the building where you're coming out of the back side of, your facility, right to Shaw's, where they don't have to cross a lot of traffic area, which is a short driveway to get onto the walkway to Shaw's.
we have looked at the site, and there's not an option, as we've looked at it, to design a sidewalk into their property.
I've gone by that area many times. I've been here 54 years. And we're looking at that property where there was a playground on that far side facing Shaw's where the Christmas trees are. It would be easier to me if you put a little bridge across there to Shaw's and get some sort of an easement from Shaw's, to put something in there so they can go just across one little stretch of pavement right to the facility itself. And that way there, they can not only get the bus, but they can also do their shopping. That way they don't have to face the traffic coming into Shaw's and along East Avenue. I mean, somebody dropped the ball here. You're talking seniors now. You're not talking somebody that's in their 20s. A lot of people have wheelchairs. A lot of people have walkers. Now, you're asking them to go up there. Isn't that a safety issue?
If I may,
Speak in the microphone, please.
we have many variables in that discussion that there's Shaw's, and I don't know if Shaw's is the actual owner of the building and the site.
They own that facility.
So that I wasn't aware of that, but the other thing is elevation change. The grade drops, it drops down because we're actually higher than where it comes in across. So first we have to go up the embankment in one location, and then we have to go through the trees, which we don't want to go through the trees, and we can't add a sidewalk because the trees are there and there's a guardrail. So we have a lot of confining things in there. So from the aspect of putting in a sidewalk, that's something that we just can't do physically on our property because of where the trees are and the guardrail. And then the variable of working with Shaw's and the timing of our project was just something we weren't prepared to afford in our budget.
Thank you. Alex?
Okay. Yeah, this exact issue came up when we approved the project. And I think we sort of came to a similar conclusion that it's hard because we're going across two properties. One thing I am wondering about, and this is maybe a little more for staff, further down the agenda, we are talking about the property across East Ave, specifically, I believe, for a grocery store that's being put in, so improving bicycle and pedestrian facilities for that. I'm curious how this, the connection that we've modified for this project is going to tie into that. So I haven't been able to find it yet, but do we have a diagram showing that intersection and all of the crosswalks that are planned to be put in? Because I think in my mind, yes, it's unfortunate with the situation with the Shaw's property, but that property was not designed for people walking into it, which stinks for a wide variety of people, not just the folks who are going to live here. But if we don't have the ability for people to cross at this corner to the other side of East Ave and maybe make it down into the other shopping plaza, that seems like a big miss that we could maybe figure out in this meeting. The one thing that I'm wondering for the applicant when we look that up is if you could show us on your plan set sort of where the changes are, what we're approving in terms of, here's where the old walkway was, this is where it's been removed, here's where the patio space was, here's where it's been moved, this is the change in size, if possible.
And specifically, I'm going to make two requests related to that. In your digital application, which I'm hoping is on the laptop in front of you, are these plans so you could actually pull them up and show us? I think is Mr. Pine's request. And I'm curious if staff can turn on the other TV for us.
Yeah, we can. And we think that there's an issue with the PDF on the laptop, so we'll just take a moment for Craig to put a corrected PDF on there.
It'll be easier for you to show the changes, and it will be both recorded and our audience be able to see that as well. So it's worth a minute to readjust. Thank you, Shelley. I'm going to be the one who has to go backwards, so it's self-serving for sure.
Madam Chair. And before we go on to a different topic, I want to come back to the sidewalk and with a question or two and an observation.
Okay. Is it okay if you state your questions and don't expect a response until they have the plans up while they're pulling them up?
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah. Now, one question is the boundary of the property. If I'm looking at the C10 correctly, does it actually cross down through the roadway into Shaw's? The other observation was, I was here 7 years ago when this was originally in the RFP stage, and my memory and I believe I'm correct, in believing that this property was originally designed for mobility-challenged seniors. So that is very important when we're discussing the mobility, as member Lucy Bisson has raised. So just keep that in mind, because that was the original pitch, and I've seen so much morphing in the last 7 years. I'm not happy.
So I think the questions that you're seeking to answer are, can you reflect on the maps for us, the changes made from the original application to this? Second to that is, can you highlight the boundary and clarify if what appears to be the corner of the property goes into Shaw's property, I think was the question. And then to speak broadly to mobility of pedestrians, I would point out there's no expectation of you to answer the question Alex asked about overarching connectivity in the streets or intersection, and we can pull up maybe Google View when we tackle that agenda item. Okay.
Okay.
Did you get it to work?
Well, we got the plan to work. I'm afraid that the
It's
slide
fine.
monitor is not showing the right image.
okay.
I apologize.
We'll take it. No, it's great.
So this is the property corner, this is the Shaw's drive entry right here. So it does appear that there is some encroachment onto this parcel. This is the edge of pavement, roughly where my cursor is.
Do you know the elevation change, or do you have an elevation map? No could be a completely appropriate answer.
I do not have a good elevation map right now. But there is the considerable grade changes right along this edge over here.
And as people keep referring to the ditch, that's the ditch too, the little squiggly lines to the right of where you just highlighted.
Yes.
That's correct.
I think changes to impervious is one maybe you
So-
point out.
Yeah, the previous phase one project was approved in 2023 by the board. And at that time, there was a different engineering consultant involved, that was Ransom Consultants. And my company, Acorn Engineering, we took over in 2024 as basically we were engaged by Lewiston Housing to look at phase two of this project. So as part of phase two, we also had to look at how that integrated with phase one. That brought about some of these changes, these layout changes that were discussed in the memo related to phase one. The overall flow of the parking lot, it did change. The parking lot today is still 23 spaces, and what was previously proposed was 23 spaces, so that exceeds the 1-to-1 standard for the unit count. The building was also varied slightly. I don't have like an exact overlay between the two designs right now, so I'm doing my best to kind of summarize it. But the building did change, and the amount of area actually slightly increased as part of that building footprint. The walkways shown around the building were previously shown as all concrete. We have now made those all, they're all asphalt. There was curb along the edge of the sidewalks. We made most of these parking spots, and we've designed them to all be ADA accessible, with the intention of this being an elderly community. And when they get out of their car, there's going to be a truncated dome, and rather than a curb, there's now like a detectable warning surface that warns the tenants that they're going from the parking lot to a pedestrian walkway space. So that was a change that we made as part of this. So we got rid of a lot of that curb there and made all that detectable warning surface. The dumpster location slightly changed, and we moved it to this corner. We figured that was one of the better areas to tuck it away on this site. There was a focal point or two as part of the stormwater system. A focal point is a proprietary best management practice for treating runoff. Those focal points provide almost no detention, and they directed the runoff to East Avenue. One of the conditions of approval as part of phase one was to prepare a stormwater management report. That was never done as part of that original approval. So when Acorn Engineering went ahead and we actually did a more detailed analysis of the stormwater, what we found is that the stormwater, the amount of flow was actually increased to East Avenue. So we didn't
Pull
want
the
that.
microphone closer. I'm sorry. I know you've only got one amongst the three of you. Thank you. Go on.
So what we did is we removed those focal point systems and we redesigned the stormwater to be conveyed where it currently goes now. It currently flows in stretches of sheet flow, shallow concentrated flow across the site in this area where it gets diverted to Marston Street. What we're doing is we're trying to better maintain the natural drainage patterns, and we're redirecting all the flow to one under-drained soil filter best management practice. The previous 2023 plans by Ransom did show an under-drained soil filter at generally that same location, but we're making that under-drained soil filter a little bit larger to handle the additional flow to pick up for the absence of a focal point as now part of this project. So the stormwater system was redesigned, still meets the main DEP standards as currently proposed. It's just a shifting of where the flow goes because what we found are we didn't want to increase the flows to East Avenue. And then as part of the phase one, there was a patio area with some benches right about here. What we did is we tried to shift the pedestrian recreational space to, we made this area a lot nicer. There's a bench right there. And then we're also utilizing this area as one of the recreational spaces as part of the site. There's some bike racks, 2 bike racks here, and then another bench right here. And the reason why we're doing that is because this project has already received main housing potential funding for the phase 2, which is going to extend off this side of the building. So, and because that already has the funding approved, the phase 2 will be moving ahead sooner than later. So we didn't want to go ahead and construct a patio for it to only be removed almost when phase 2 is about to get going. So that was a change that we made in shifting the recreational space, the site amenities space, to this area, and then this area as well is designed for that site amenity area. One request that we were going to look to the board for tonight is the sidewalk, this sidewalk here that connects over to, Lisbon Street. So there is a sidewalk that extends down Marston, connects over to Lisbon Street. Sorry, I don't know why it's frozen.
But at least we got it up there.
We were gonna look to the board to see what their thoughts were on, because phase 2 is about to get moving sooner than later. This area over here is gonna be used for construction staging, potential development in the future, maybe even a phase 3. And we're thinking that this sidewalk along the entire stretch here could get in the way of the construction. So what we would look to the board for, if they would be open to like a condition of approval as part of this, that sidewalk extension be built within 1 year of the phase 1 being completed. And the only reason for that is we're just worried about that new sidewalk getting in the way of the construction, and then maybe even another future curb cut proposed as part of phase 2 or phase 3. So we would like to see if the board would be open to like a year after phase 1 being completed that sidewalk is installed. Once we have a little bit of a better grasp on phase 2, when it's going to move ahead, as well as where phase 3 might propose a new curb cut. So that would be something we're looking to the board tonight for some feedback. I don't know if you have any other questions about.
I'm going to help you catch the ones you missed.
Yeah, sure.
And we'll come back to the question that you posed to the board. I just note in the memo that we were provided and in your updates, you did note an increase of 583 square feet in the footprint size. I didn't know if you wanted the opportunity to point that out. And I would add to that, you somehow magically kept the same amount of parking spots, increased the square footage, and reduced impervious area. Those were the ones that you missed. I didn't know if you wanted to point them out.
So the phase one, they did include a fairly extensive patio area at the end of the building here. So there was a reduction in that larger patio area being removed, as well as some of the two landscaped islands here. The parking design was just a little bit more efficient with how we were able to get those 23 spaces.
And I can address the building size. Again, this kind of goes back to what I started with, is to say that when we originally came to the planning board, we had conceptual designs for submission to main housing. In the design development process, the building footprint did increase slightly, but we do think relatively slightly. I think it was 500 plus square feet. Are there any specific questions that you had about that?
That was making sure that Alex's question and Mr. Marcock's question got
Okay.
answered. I believe
So
that
the-
they both did.
Did you all point, I might have missed it, did you all point out where the second walkway was going to be located? Is that sort of
Yeah.
off the patio that's gone?
That's this little guy down here that he was pointing at. That's the second.
Well,
one
there's a,
that's first.
yeah.
Okay, I thought in the memo it was talking about there were going to be two sidewalks out of the building onto East Ave.
So, no.
No?
There
Okay,
was
I
one,
misread
always
that.
going to be one sidewalk to East Ave. However, we did shift that sidewalk to be closer,
Got it.
up East
Shorter.
Avenue toward the Shaws.
Okay,
And a part of the reason for that was to make the access
Okay.
shorter from the building to get over there.
yeah. Okay, I mean, it says in the memo, this was done by shortening walkways and providing one walk to East Ave instead of two. So, that's what I was going off of. Maybe we have.
Shelley
some-
wrote that down.
Their prior plan did have two
Yeah, I seem to
access
re-
points on
I
East
remember
Avenue.
that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and there hasn't been a second walkway to East Avenue in quite some time. so-
Okay. No problem.
Some of this is necessitated by the fact, as Craig has mentioned, that we really didn't have a phase two design when we put the phase one in. As we've gone ahead and further developed a phase two plan, it has required us to make some adjustments to how phase one looks and how the two phases interact with each other. But as of now, there will be the one access point that anyone in Phase 1 or Phase 2 can use to get to East Avenue, and you're seeing that depicted on the screen.
Got it.
Mr. Marcotte, I think that you had, and then Mr. Dupree will go with you after. You had a question you wanted to revisit about, do you feel like it was answered related to the sidewalk?
Related sidewalk, yes.
Okay, great. Mr. Dupree?
In the staff review, it says the updated turning patterns for ladder truck 1. Can you clarify that a little bit more, please?
I can discuss that, if you like.
A staff question, I believe.
The fire department had just asked to make sure that their fire truck turning radius was considered in their design.
And you found that it was?
What's the
Yes.
difference between now and when we discussed 2 years ago?
So the parking lot has been redesigned slightly. So it was just during the review, I don't believe the fire department saw a plan that showed the turning radius, so they were asking to have the plan, which has been submitted.
Does that have any bearing on Marston Street?
It looks like it turns cleanly around on Marston Street, so it shouldn't have any impact, no.
Brings me to my second question. We discussed a bus stop using Marston Street as access for in and out of the complex. Is that something that we can entertain?
We, the city, or we, this applicant? Because I don't believe the applicant can direct city resources or indicate a bus stop. So are you asking if if something staff can follow up with in terms of city planning?
Well, we had discussed it 2 years ago, and I think it was put on hold because nobody said they wanted to do anything. But I think now we're at the juncture where they've had that fire department reallocation of their turning radius. Maybe a bus stop can go in there, because that was one of the questions that they couldn't answer. They said that the buses didn't have the radius to turn around in Marston Street.
Chili, can you make that a follow-up item for a future date? Just for an update for us to know if the CityLink had looked at the updated plans and if it's possible?
Yep, we can definitely do that.
Be something we could advocate for during the capital improvement plan process that's coming up?
Yeah, because I think if they put the bus stop in there, I think that'll alleviate the question of seniors walking across East Avenue to get to Shaw's. Because they can pull in there and seniors can get on a bus and then travel around and get off at the parking lot, at the garage, the grocery store.
Thanks. Lucy, I see you. Is there anyone who hasn't asked a question yet that would like an opportunity? Lucy?
Okay, we were discussing in regards to the other item in tonight, this adjusted the traffic study. If you check out the back page of the traffic study, it shows that they planned crosswalk from across East Avenue would be on the other side of the Shaw's Walk. So if people want to cross using the crosswalk and the light, they would have to cross the traffic pattern of Shaw's.
I'm sorry for my chuckling face, but I just want to be clear. As we review potentially competing grocery stores application, it would make sense that they would not make it easier for pedestrians to get to Shaw's.
Well, I'm
And-
just saying in regard to, the walkway, you guys are saying, turn right up and walk along the sidewalk. For the elderly people, they're going to have to cross that light pattern and then cross East Avenue. I'm just making a note.
Mark?
This isn't really I guess it's a question for Public Works. Why is it we can't just have an all stop and then just a full crossing so that you can cross from one corner to the next?
You're asking for a signal that would be pedestrian only at that intersection?
Yeah, basically, right?
I can ask the question.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks. Alex?
So I had some feedback on the plans.
Okay.
Overall, looks pretty good to me. I think I have a couple of concerns, so I guess we could start with your question of whether or not you could sort of hold off on that sidewalk.
As you reference the plans, can you refer to the drawing number in the
Of
bottom right
course.
corner?
So I'm on C10. So I think my preference for the sidewalk is that when there are occupants in the building, that sidewalk is made available to them. And if it does need to get modified or blocked in any way for construction of the next phase, that pedestrian accommodations be made for the residents of the building. There's plenty of businesses on Lisbon Street that they could walk to. And so I think it's really important for their quality of life that they're able to walk down Marston Street some way. So maybe on the opposite side, I don't know. But they have the ability to do that. I would also encourage that you think about how you're doing your bike storage. From what I remember from the old plans, there wasn't any interior storage for bicycles. It was all exterior. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. As someone who has ridden their bicycle around this neighborhood a handful of times, I think people on bicycles will have an easier time getting to things and having that be a useful mode of transportation if they are able to get their bikes onto East Ave easily. And right now, the exterior bike racks are on the opposite side of the building, and from what I can tell, there isn't an easy pathway around the building. At the same time, I think putting the bike racks on East Ave probably isn't the best approach because it's not sort of within the courtyard of the building, right? So I think providing a way for people to get bicycles from the bike racks to East Ave, and also to just have a way to get around the building on the exterior instead of having to pass through it, could be really useful to residents. I know it would increase your impervious, but I don't think it would be that much. So I would really encourage you to look at that. And then I think, I know budgets are really tight right now. It's tough. I think the original patio design was quite appealing just because it was sort of bigger, more open. And now what's being proposed for recreational space is sort of like shoved in on the property line behind the dumpster and then also up against the parking, if I'm understanding this correctly. So making sure that it's good quality for the residents, I think, is important.
Sure. If you like, I can respond to a couple of those.
Yeah, go for it.
Can you pull your mic?
Thanks. With respect to the recreational space, certainly understand your point. What we've tried to do is focus the recreational space in this sort of corner of the property, which has sort of grass and trees, and we'll have some plantings along the buildings. You're right. Technically, it's near the dumpster, but the dumpster will be, enclosed and in the parking. And so we think that this area is the best area that we have available to us for residents to have a bench and a place to sit. Certainly aren't going to be able to, if we kept the patio where it was originally located, it would be ripped out when we build phase two.
Understood.
With the bikes, absolutely understand your point there. We did specifically put those bikes inside the courtyard for the very reason that you identified, which is just the safer spot. And sort of I do understand there's a possibility to take your bike through the property and go out on East Avenue, or you can ride your bike just right around one block and you're basically to the same place. It's
not ideal. I wonder if you could have the bike racks maybe closer to the entrance that I'm seeing, sort of at the crux of the building right there,
Right there?
at the elbow. Someplace maybe in there, because it might just be a little more convenient for residents to bring it through the building.
absolutely. I think that's absolutely something
Yeah.
we could look at.
And I don't know if it would be possible to think about a walkway that goes around the western corner of the building. So if you scroll up, so you have a walkway that goes a quarter of the way down that wing, and you have another walkway that goes halfway up the other side.
You mean this left side of?
Yep, the left side there. If there was a way to
But
connect.
that's where the Phase 2 building is going to go.
Oh, it's going to be right up against
Yeah,
it.
literally, I should have made that clear. The Phase 2 building is connecting to the Phase 1
Physically.
building.
Oh, that's right,
So
that's
that when
right.
you come in, the lobby, we're not actually going to build a second lobby for Phase 2. That lobby
It's just a
will do
wing.
double duty, and it's
Understood.
building another wing.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would say, I think, given all the restrictions that you're outlining, having those bike racks maybe be closer to the door so that people can get it through the building.
Sure.
Because, it's very easy to say, oh, yes, people could ride around the corner. They would probably have to ride on the sidewalk for it to be safe. I think that knowing, people who ride bikes who are older, they like to have a little more space. A sidewalk is a narrow, sort of treacherous thing, and I don't think that would give them sort of the mobility option that being able to walk a bike down to the corner, wait for the signal, and then you can get on the road. Also, the sidewalks are wider on East Ave, from what I remember. Could just make it a lot safer. Or, riding your bike to Shaw's, even though it's very short. It could make it a lot safer for folks. So if there's any way that you can make it easier for people to get it through the building, I think that's what you
Absolutely.
need to do.
We'll make a point to look at that location for the bike rack.
Yep.
Any final or last comments from the board? Zoe?
Yeah, I just had one question regarding the trash receptacles. Have you considered including a space for people to dispose of cigarette butts as well?
Not specifically, but it's a great idea, and it's something that we have typically done at other properties. You know, there will be no smoking in the building.
Of course.
But the result of that, unfortunately, is that there are going to be smokers, and they do get pushed out oftentimes to the nearest exit because it's the closest place to go. So yes, I think having a cigarette butt receptacle is something that we could do.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
I want to check with staff on a quick clarifying question. I think the applicant has asked us to add to the conditions of approval under staff recommendations the ability to have the sidewalk along Marston Street completed within a year of Phase 1 being completed. Is there anything you need procedurally for us to consider that? I'm a little questioning if the biggest reasons for not completing the Marston Street sidewalk is related to the fact that you're going to be chewing it up with Phase 2. Seems weird to link this approval to the completion of Phase 1, because I highly doubt Phase 2 will be done. So did you want to modify or reconsider your request?
So what we were hoping to do is make a request that would allow us to get through. So we do expect there to be an overlap between Phase 1 and Phase 2. So by giving us a year to complete the sidewalk, it would allow us to get through the site work on Phase 2 before we had to put in the sidewalk. But we did want to make sure that the sidewalk was a condition of the Phase 1 approval. We know that it's an important, and we're not trying to get out of putting that sidewalk in. We just want to have a little bit more flexibility. We do have the ability for residents, when they are living in the building for that, call it first year, to exit out of the building onto East Avenue and walk down the sidewalk and get to more or less the same place that you would get if you walked down Marston Street. And it would make the development as it moves down Marston Street, much simpler, or at least less risk of tearing up a brand new sidewalk while we do construction work along that street.
Can I ask a clarifying question too? Was it Craig?
Yes.
Engineer?
Yes.
Okay, what exists already for sidewalks on the opposing side of Marston where you're not doing side work that would be in use during Phase 1? So
I don't think there's any.
here,
I don't believe there's any sidewalk there.
it's an unfortunate answer. Not that you can control it, but are you doing a quick Google check? Yeah.
Exactly.
While we're looking at that, thoughts or comments from the board on the request? Lucy and then Alex?
I'm still very disappointed that I'm going to have to walk in traffic.
I love that you've already planned to live there, though.
Hey, you never know,
Alex?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Not getting any younger.
back up Lucy on this one. I think I understand that it is a temporary thing, that this sidewalk would be closed, that you'd be able to get the groundwork done and all of that. I still wonder if there's a way that we can safely provide pedestrian access during that time. It doesn't necessarily need to be that the sidewalk gets built, in my mind. I think just making it a condition of approval that you provide pedestrian access down Marston Street. Walking all the way around, I'm trying to, the numbers are small and my mental math is not very good, but it's like adding 1,000 feet to that person's trip, which, if you're gonna go to, I think there's a Chinese restaurant at the corner of Marston Street, just trying to think of a building there.
It's a bank.
Oh, it's a bank, okay.
Bank
Okay, so you're going to the bank, right? So you're gonna add another 1,000 feet to that person's journey to go do that service. And I think, I'm not asking for you to build the permanent sidewalk. I'm just asking for you to make sure that pedestrian access is maintained on that street regardless of your construction.
Safe pedestrian access, because
Safe.
walking down the middle of the street would provide pedestrian access.
Yes.
That is not what I think you're referring to.
No, not at all.
Okay. And so I'm hearing a recommendation from at least one board member that we would add that condition of approval with consistent and safe pedestrian access throughout Phase 1, and that within a year of completing Phase 1, it would be produced as according to the plans. Is that accurate? Is there anyone who'd like to amend that for whomever might be making the motion.
Could I make a suggestion?
Please.
Within a year of a project being completed is not something we have a lot of control over, so I would tie it to phase 2 if you can.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Other comments from the board on this agenda item? I'd be looking for a motion, and I'm happy to,
We need to go to public.
oh, that's right, thank you so much. Folks in the audience, it's your turn. I'm going to open public comment. When I do, if you'd like to weigh in on this agenda item, you'd go to the podium, you'd start by saying your name and your street address, and then you'd be limited to 3 minutes. Last call on this agenda item for a public hearing. And I'm closing it. Thanks. Would anybody like to take a stab at the motion tonight?
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that the application submitted by the Lewiston Housing Authority and Lewiston Auburn Area Housing Development Corporation on behalf of Martell School Senior Housing LP for a new 3-story apartment building containing 44 residential units at 860 Lisbon Street meets all the necessary criteria contained in the Zoning and Land Use Code, including but not limited to Article 13, Section 4, approval criteria, and Section 5, coordination with state subdivision law, and that amended development and subdivision approval be granted with the following conditions. 1, prior to signing the drawings, the plans be updated and labeled to show bench numbers and locations. 2, prior to signing the drawings, a note be added stating that all the new drainage shall remain private and the responsibility of the owner to maintain. 3, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall file a stormwater maintenance guarantee letter with the registration of deeds. 4, prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, an easement for the turnaround at the end of Marston Street be agreed upon with the city and filed at the Registry of Deeds. 5, prior to the issuance of certificate of occupancy, the applicant's engineer shall certify that all improvements have been completed in accordance with the approved plans, including but not limited to stormwater and utilities, pavements, plantings, and exterior building materials. 6, and I didn't write this down, that the sidewalk along Marston Street be maintained in a safe, so that pedestrian traffic has a safe and consistent manner of getting to Lisbon Street, and that the final
Down Marston Street.
down Marston Street, I'm sorry,
Sorry.
down Marston Street to Lisbon Street, and that the final completed sidewalk be
Completed according to
completed
plan.
as Phase 2 gets completed.
Yes. I love that. Thanks.
Okay.
Is there a second on the motion?
A second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Roger Dupree,
Yes.
Michael Marcotte,
No.
Lucy Bisson, yes, reluctantly. Mark Roy,
Yes.
Shanna Cox,
Yes.
Alexander Pine,
Yes.
Penthea Burns.
Yes.
Motion passes. Good luck. See you for Phase 2. Thanks
Thank you
for
all. Good
that
night.
safe pedestrian access. We appreciate
you.
it. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Moving on to our next agenda item, which is a public hearing for Mr. Deal LLC, submitting a development review and conditional use permit application for a 170 kilowatt ground-mounted solar array on a 10.2 acre lot at 5 Clayton Drive. As you guys assess yourselves, make sure you got seats. Welcome. Craig, I believe you're introducing this agenda item.
Yes.
From both sides. Do you need a minute?
I'm all set, thank
Okay.
you. Yes, so 5 Clayton Drive. They are proposing 292 modules. This qualifies as a utility structure, and this is an allowed use in the rural ag zoning district upon the issuance of a conditional use permit. That's why you're seeing it here. The applicant has addressed all comments with two exceptions. One is the buffering. So the applicant is requesting a waiver from the buffering standards of Article 13, Section 4U, which requires buffering of adjacent uses where there is a transition from one type of commercial use to a residential use, and to screen service and storage areas. You'll see in the applicant's waiver request, they provide a few images, and showing existing vegetation all around the proposed area. Staff have not taken a strong position for this waiver, and we will acknowledge certainly that there is vegetation in the area. I think I've got 85 feet of depth to the south, 500 feet of depth to the east, and 200 feet of depth to the north. The only issue that we're seeing is that with these buffering requirements, they should be located on the same lot as the project. It's unlikely that buffering that exists will be removed in the future, but it can't be guaranteed.
Bless you.
So that aside, the only other sort of staff recommendation is for the a decommissioning agreement, which is standard for any solar project. So we've got two conditions of approval, potentially one, and two motions, one for the conditional use, one for the project. And I forgot, I would recommend a third motion for either approval or denial of the waiver. The particular language to be pursuant to Article 13, Section 3G7, to approve a waiver from the buffering requirements of Article 13, Section 4U. And happy to answer any other questions.
You went pretty quick there for it not being written down for us.
Happy to repeat.
Section 3G7 per Article 13, a waiver for, and that's where I lost you.
So pursuant to Article 13, Section 3G7,
Those are the parts I got.
to approve or deny a waiver from the buffering requirements of Article 13, Section 4U.
U, like university?
Like the letter U.
Great. I'll be curious to see if there are neighbors in the room and how they might be weighing in on buffering. It seems like the interest of additional buffering would be in the neighbors, of whom they would be cutting down a lot of trees to create an eyesight, line of sight. So, thanks. Welcome, applicants. If you'd like to state your name for the record.
Yeah, my name is Seth Likeness. I'm the project manager here at Solar Systems of Maine, the installer.
Thank you.
Hi, Tyler Baker, owner of Solar Systems of Maine.
Thank you.
And American Builders.
And American Builders.
There you go.
Tulio de Almeida, with Mr. Deal.
Thank you. Thanks. Was there anything that you'd like to add as you introduce your application beyond what staff has provided to us verbally or in the memo?
Yeah, Craig provided an excellent summary. So Tulio, the applicant, and also the homeowner and landowner at 5 Clayton Drive. He also is a business owner. He owns 3 Aroma Joes, 2 in Lewiston, 1 in Auburn, correct? And this is to supply power to each of his Aroma Joes in addition to his own household at 5 Clayton Drive. And it's all coming from a place of wanting clean energy, and valuing the environment. So there were comments on buffering. There is an incredible amount of vegetation all the way around. And while I understand the concern of it being on a neighbor's property, there's only one neighbor. If you look at the plans, it's on the left side. There's only one neighbor on the left-hand side. And the pictures reflect themselves that there is thick enough vegetation where it is practically invisible. And there's a clear site for the solar arrays that will be on a relatively flat ground. So that the entire property itself is relatively flat. There's minimal excavation work that needs to be, would be done. There's minimal effect to the land, and we value that. We value the land as is. And, you know, we don't want to affect it. There won't be any clearing of trees on our end of things to install this array. So it's and I will say too, this is on Tulio's private property, and it is practically invisible from the main road when you're driving by Ferry Road. So that's it as far as addition to the summary.
Thanks so much. Questions from the board?
I was going to wait.
Mr. Marcotte?
A few observations. First of all, I like, the fact that you have your financial capacity with the dollar amount. We don't always see it that way. It's just a flat letter. Thank you for that. I'm just refreshing my memory with the map, and I see Clayton Drive. I guess actually, are there two Clayton Drives here?
There's an old and a new. The one that looks kind of faded.
Yeah.
That looks to be on the opposite end of the property. That's considered the old. Is that?
Correct. It was never a road there.
Yeah.
There was never a road on that
Okay.
portion of the land.
So the one that I previously thought is the road in, and the house is basically, when you look out the backside of the house is the field.
Correct.
And one of my questions is, if it's already cleared, was there a previous use? Was it farmland?
I purchased this property in 2022,
Okay.
so I'm not really sure, but based on my neighbors having conversation, they share that seems to be in the past. There was no trees on the area. It was always just grass. Face strip.
That's all I have for now.
Thank you. Other questions from the board? Anthea and then Alex?
I think a simple one. What is the lot size?
10.3 acres.
Thank you.
Alex?
In terms of line of sight from Ferry Road as well as Clayton Drive, on either side of the house, are you able to see the array behind it? Like, is there sort of any visual impact there that needs screening, or is it because of the elevation it's hard to see that far back into the property?
I can address a little bit. So,
You want to, Tyler?
okay. So the house is actually built on a higher part of the land, and we are quite far from Ferry Road, where the location is. That is a property in front of us, and then we are on the lot behind. And we already have like very tall trees that's been there for a long time. So the idea which we agree on to have the project in the middle of the land where we're gonna get the most sun, which happens to be exactly behind the house from the main road view. So it's not gonna be any, driving on the road, you're gonna have to really turn your head to be able to see anything because the house is right in front of the top part of the property, like elevation. If you want to add anything.
Yeah, that's all I was going to say is that it drops down a lot, and really the only person that'd be able to see it would be Tulio, unless you drove down to the very edge of where his driveway is, and you might be able to see a glimpse of it, but nothing from Ferry Road.
Yeah. And then in terms of how the project's being structured, just thinking about this in terms of a development that might change hands in the future, you might decide to move or something like that, is there like a separate entity that is owning the array, leasing the land from whoever owns the house, and then there's power purchase agreements for the power coming off of this, or is it sort of being included as part of the existing development and sort of being net metered that way?
Yep. So I'm in conversation with my accounting company and the lawyer. So Mr. Dio is going to be the owner of the array, which is not related to the house. So basically, we're going to have like a rental agreement for the portion of the array, but it's not finalized just yet. But that's what we're going to be working on to have a separate entity there.
Okay.
I think I hear the second half of Alex's question. I'm going to layman's term this one. He's got some more experience in the world of solar than I do, but long story short, your array doesn't feed into your house meter. It is a separate meter and thus could be separately sold, managed, or
correct
agreed upon in future. Is that what you're getting at?
I was a little bit. I mean, more that, if the house is sold what are the implications for the array?
The ownership of the entity itself.
Yep, so Mr. Deal will own the array, that land lease will be made with whoever owns the property, and that's like part of the deed, basically.
Correct.
Okay.
Other questions from the board? Roger?
Is the array going to be hooked into a transmission line, or is it going to be telephone pole?
So we're running underground, and we're connecting directly into the utility via interconnection transformer.
Where's the transformer?
So,
Next page, maybe.
yeah, CB3. Whoops, I'm zooming out too far. I use this laptop. All right,
Here.
yeah. This is a one-page document. Where's the? Do we have the full plan set? Well,
You
either
should,
way,
one sec.
that's all right.
Don't let
Actually,
that one
I
go
think
too far,
this-
though, because I'm going to have a question about that later.
Okay, I think this will work, actually.
close it.
Yeah, okay, we're good. Should be. Yep. So at the end of the client's property, there will be a transformer installed right on Clayton Drive.
There is a pad there right now, existing pad.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're going to have any buffering around that?
Around the transformer and the pad?
Yes.
No, because there is an existing pad there.
There's an existing one there?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board before I open it up to the public? Seeing none, we're going to open it up to the public. If anyone has any comments on this agenda item, you'll go to the podium, state your name and address. We'll be limiting each public comment to 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Mike Lapointe. I reside at 195 Ferry Road. So I'm the property owner just to the north of this proposed development at 5 Clayton. I'm going to talk really fast because if you're limiting me to 3 minutes, I do have quite a bit of questions. One thing I'm seeing for the first time is a set of plans. I did look at the documents that were provided as part of the agenda. There was no full plan in the agenda, so I wasn't really sure where the array was going to be located in relation to my property line. So I'm just seeing that now. So that creates some questions for me. So I understand the intent of this meeting is to approve the project as a motion, as well as approve a buffer waiver. Is that accurate?
Yes. We won't answer most of your questions, so you have your full 3 minutes. I am making a note.
Okay, so if I understand that the motion would be to approve this project, that would, in my brain, create a building permit to allow this project to move forward. So to date, no work should have taken place on this project. Would that be correct?
Go on.
I will say that if that is a correct statement, work has commenced on the project, and to date, I don't believe you have a permit for the project. So I think that is something that should be considered. In reviewing the information provided, again, on the website, I did not have the information. I do now. Based on this being a 170 kilowatt system, certainly considered a commercial project. When you review the applicant for this project, again, I know I can't ask questions, but my question would be, has the deed restrictions been considered? There's 3 deed restrictions on that lot that I question whether they would allow for this development. There's a deed restriction not allowing a road or a public way to be constructed on the lot. The proposal here has a road that is required from the fire department to access the array. To me, that goes against the deed restriction. The deed restriction also states that no commercial buildings to be on the lot. This is a commercial building project, considering the size. And there is also a deed restriction that states allow only the construction of a single-family residence and necessary structures and accessory structures. This system's too big to be considered an accessory.
Got about a minute left.
Yep. Other questions I would have is, has property loss been considered, property loss of value been considered for abutters like myself? This is a rural agricultural zone. I bought 18 acres of land. I put my house right in the middle for a reason, because it's a rural agricultural zone. I am now seeing a proposal to build a commercial solar array that I can see right outside my window. Hardly to me, I would say that part of my value of my property is the fact that I have some seclusion, and I lose that when I look out the window and see a commercial project. Again, trying to hurry up here.
It really is your time. Do you have one final question you'd like for us to
Well,
address?
in regard to the buffer, so the waiver of the buffer, I would not understand how the waiver can consider the 200 feet of my woods to be the buffer. That makes zero sense to me. If I want to go cut my trees down, the buffer disappears. Those are my trees. So I don't understand how the applicant could ever think that that would waiver a buffer requirement.
Thank you, duly noted.
Thank you.
Others from the floor? Last call for the public hearing on this agenda item. I'm going to take a stab at stating a couple of those questions. I'm going to start with the ones that I think are staff questions. Can you speak to any of the gentleman's questions about the review of deed and deed restrictions on 5 Clayton?
So with any review, for any sort of development review project, proof of right title interest is required, so we would have reviewed a copy of the deed, just to see that they own the property. Private deed restrictions like that, as we might see in like an HOA agreement or anything like that, those are not enforced by the city. If they were to be enforced, they would have to be enforced privately.
So would, in terms of how that would affect our decision-making tonight, we wouldn't seek to have that addressed, nor would we have the power to ask for it?
It's a good question.
Thanks. I like the good ones.
Yeah. I think that we would be looking to clarify if there are restrictions that would prevent what they're asking to do. I personally haven't reviewed the deed. Hopefully the applicant understands their deed restrictions and can explain a little bit about what those are this evening. But I don't think I have an answer at this exact moment, but I am going to pull up the deed right now.
Thanks. Get ready for that. I'm going to bring it to you in a second. I have a second follow-up question from the gentleman, which is, can you speak to how a solar array of 170 kilowatts is not a commercial building or does, and how that relates to, that's the conditional waiver? Is there any other points that you'd like to make?
I would say, I don't know how one would define commercial building, right? It's not based on Lewiston definitions, that's a deed. We would consider it a structure, but not a building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. And then I would seek for the applicant to respond to any of those questions. The one that I have not restated that I'd also encourage you to address is any work being done to date and what permits might have been pulled that aren't specific to this project relevant to activity on the property.
So, yeah, great question. Essentially, minor excavation to determine ledge and ledge placement on the property, because if there was ledge throughout a prevailing portion of where the conduit is being laid, then that would be a complete game changer in terms of how this plan is laid out.
Thanks. Did you want to speak to the deed restrictions? Unfortunately, I'm not able to do that. Thanks, though. Did you want to speak to the deed restrictions at all?
I'm not really sure because that was a property that was split in 5 residents, and there is 2 properties up front of the property close to Ferry Road that is not built on, like nobody lives there, And then the other two neighbors that we have on the same property, we have great relationship. I talked to them about what I was going to do, and it was no bring it up as far as that's something that's against for you to do. So I'm not sure as far as that goes, because we are the ones that maintain Clayton Drive. We are the ones that, you know, together we kind of maintain our properties there. So sometimes we mow each other's lawn, you know. So we have great relationship, and none of them brought any concerns.
Okay, thank you. I think that addressed most of the questions. I'd love to hear thoughts, comments from the board. Lucy?
Well, I think you have not addressed his concern about the waiver, you know, regarding the fact that the 200 feet are his trees, and if he decides to cut his trees tomorrow, there would be no buffer.
I'm correct. I did not address that because it's not my request, and that's for the board to discuss. I would say staff addressed it and brought it up in the memo. It's up to us to decide whether we approve the waiver for buffers or we insist additional buffering happening, and if so, on all sides of the property or any specific side.
Okay.
So that is a discussion point, but it's not my choice to make.
Okay, all right. Just,
Yeah. Did you want to weigh in on it?
Well, I can sympathize with the gentleman that, you know, they're his trees, so if he decides, I don't see a reason why he would, but if he decides to do it, I mean, it's his property, he can do it with it as he pleases. You know, then it would make it that there would be no buffer, and so, yeah.
If I may.
Sure.
Yeah.
So looking at the plans here, first I want to ask Craig, preface question, what's the minimum buffering?
So we refer to the design guideline standards, which call for, there's a range of ways that the buffering requirements can be satisfied, a combination of fencing and plantings, or, you know, a staggered row of deciduous plantings, or a thick row of evergreen plantings.
I guess a better question, I'm sorry, is if a waiver is to be granted, what's the minimum natural vegetation buffering that would be required in order to waive any additional
You wouldn't be
buffering?
getting a waiver in that point. I think the question you're asking is, what is the minimum amount of buffer required that you are asking to be waived?
Sorry, maybe either it's too late or I didn't have coffee.
Certainly in
but-
your review of your application, we can't require a certain amount of buffer on properties that are not you, the applicant's property. So the only way to construct that question that's applicable here is, what is the depth of buffer that we require based on current code? I'm thinking this was Zoe's question. Do you want to ask it? Feel free.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, what is the minimum depth of buffer on the applicant's property that would be required to satisfy the buffering?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And in reference to that before it's answered, so on all sides except for what seems to be a little pocket here, which is these trees here are just outside of the client's property line, and then literally everywhere else, there's vegetation on all sides on the client's property.
Yeah. Craig?
So in our design standards, the different sort of options that you would have, the first one is a dense evergreen planting. So evergreen screenings should be a minimum height of 6 feet at installation. 2 staggered rows of plantings spaced 12 feet on center should be provided to accomplish the required buffering. That's sort of the first option. So evergreen, 2 rows of evergreen plantings staggered 12 feet on center, if that makes sense. The second option would be deciduous trees and shrubs. So 2 staggered rows should be placed 6 feet on center based on their fullness, with a minimum height of 6 feet at installation. So, you know, the deciduous trees need to be closer together just because they're deciduous and they'd be, you know, gone for half the year. But earth and berms can be an option. Grade change or fences and walls.
Perfect. So I see two possible pathways forward. Either the waiver is granted completely, or possibly we could have a compromise where this little pocket is on the property line.
I would actually offer to you that if we didn't grant you the waiver, the only place, given current plantings, that you'd be required to ensure a buffer by adding something and cost and activity to this proposal would be in that pocket. So if this board
Right.
does not approve a waiver for you tonight, then there would be any of those solutions available to you, and you need to ensure they existed all the way around, which means you wouldn't need to take an additional step where all of that tree planting is inside the property line already. And as you noted, if we reject the waiver tonight, you would only be responsible for ensuring the gap is filled.
Okay, perfect.
So the compromise is the way it is.
Yes, okay,
Okay.
no, okay, I just want to make sure I understood it completely. So that little gap, if the waiver is denied, we would need to provide a plan for buffering to address that gap where there's not enough vegetation.
I'm going to state it a little bit differently, and I'm going to invite staff to correct me if I say it wrong, but I would say you'd need to meet that particular requirement all the way around, assuming that these aren't generously drawn trees, then yes, that's the answer. If it turns out that that's like one row of birch, you'd need to
Yes.
add a second.
Right.
6 feet on center.
Yes.
So you'd have to meet that standard all the way around, but that would be what it looked like. And if those trees are drawn somewhat accurately, yeah, probably just the gap. But we couldn't say
Right.
only 10 feet and only deciduous because we haven't walked it, and that's not the questioning.
Right, okay, great,
Yep.
that clarifies that, thank you.
Zoe, was that your full question?
That was my
Okay,
full
Anthea had a question, and then Alex, I'll put you next.
Mine is the same.
Great, love that. Alex, and then Mike?
This is for staff, are there any requirements for buffering from the front of the property at all, or is that not applicable just because of the grade change and the distance from the property line?
The distance more so, it's, I'd have to defer, but it's at least 500 feet.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Markov?
I'm sorry, 5 to the edge of Ferry Road, you know.
I
Okay.
got several thoughts. There's one that I want to come back to, but none.
Can you pull your mic a little closer?
But the first one is buffering, because I'm trying to picture 12 feet on center, 6 feet on center. So the property line is the dotted dash, long dash, on the map.
Yes.
How many feet are between the property line and where that arrow is pointing to the last corner of the array? 37?
Are
So.
You're talking
how
about,
far-
you're talking about that distance right there?
Correct.
Yeah, it's actually a little bit more now. I think it's like 45.
45
because we moved.
And how much of that would have to be consumed by buffering? You say 12 feet from,
The actual trees would be 12 feet spaced horizontally. The depth of them varies, but, you know, if you have 2 staggered rows, it's really up to you where you place those.
but there'd still be plenty of, you can walk around the array.
Oh, yeah.
If it was deciduous, I'm not sure which one would be required, coniferous or deciferous, but would the leaves impact the array?
No more than snow would.
No more than snow. Okay. Which you're going to have plenty of that. Well, that was my question on the buffering.
Did you have additional questions?
Is it buffering?
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, we'll
it's
stay on one topic at a time. yes.
Alex?
So
again?
typically, in my experience on the board, we only really grant waivers to requirements like that if there's, a physical inability to put the buffer in. There doesn't appear to be that. It would cause some sort of technical hardship to the project. It doesn't sound like that would be the issue. Doesn't look to me like this would cause any shading issues on the panels. And then the last would be financial burden. But given how small that area is, I was sort of trying to guesstimate that, okay, if it's 37 feet on the plan that way, that's like maybe 80 feet this way, so you need 16 conifer trees to fill that gap. In general, I think when we're looking for a waiver, like sort of proof of that burden is really helpful, just as a note if you do more work that involves requesting a waiver like this.
So there have already been I will say this, we've already discounted what would normally be the retail price of this particular project, or to the client, pretty significantly because of budget requirements. And as we've gone along the process of getting approval from both CMP and the town, there have been additional change orders of about 5%, 6%, bringing it pretty much to the top of the client's budget and much more than he was expecting to have to pay for this project. So I'd argue from a budget standpoint, yeah, it's
There's
at that
hardship.
capacity. Yeah.
Other comments from the board? Mr. Marcotte?
Different topic and wildly different, I guess, than before we heard from the neighbor. Maybe I want to come back to something there, too. But my thought earlier in the discussion was, is there an exit plan, an end-of-life plan for the array?
There is a decommissioning plan agreement.
Decommissioning, that's
Yeah.
that's one of the conditions.
It's one of the conditions.
It's one of the conditions.
Okay, so that satisfies that, then.
Yeah.
I do have some concerns with what I heard from the neighbor. I don't know if we're in a position to maybe table the item to answer some of the questions, particularly the deed questions that weren't in the packet. I was quick to compliment the financial capacity page, but yeah, other applicants have deed information in the packet, and this one didn't. So that's something to entertain.
I'll restate my question to staff, because that was why I asked it originally. I'm hesitant to ask for a deed that speaks to specific deed restrictions if that is not our purview, and if that would be addressed through civil pathways. I don't know what the manner of recourse. I don't want to put this board in a position where we're reviewing deed restrictions for every property going forward. I'm uncomfortable doing so. I think that's a burden on us and an applicant to pull forward. I think essentially if the applicant does something that isn't within the deed restrictions, then his neighbors would have course to act upon that, and that would play out in the appropriate places, which is not this chamber
Civil
for this
court.
board. So I have considered it. I would be concerned with doing so.
Well, are we approving the road work in the process?
Yes, you're granting planning approval. You wouldn't be, granting the building permit or excavation permit for that, but yes, you'd be granting planning approval.
Well, I wouldn't want to be supporting a planning approval of something that is in violation of a deed.
Yeah, I mean, the board could require a survey or some sort of a letter from a surveyor or an attorney, reviewing the deed if you wanted. I have looked at the deed. It does talk about the restrictions that the neighbor mentioned. Those are accurate.
Thank you. Other questions or comments from the board? Zoe?
I guess maybe this is a staff question, but would a access road for fire be considered a public access road?
It's a great question as to whether that would actually meet what someone would call a road. I don't know as we would consider that. It's certainly not a city road. Would it meet a private road definition? I don't know. Again, this is language in a deed. It's not related to our city ordinance.
So if it's brought up with an excavation permit, this is an extension of his driveway.
I would offer, just to start the conversation as we look to entertain a motion, we've had this conversation recently as a board. I'm hesitant to approve a waiver on the buffering, particularly because it's a fairly inexpensive add to a larger sized budget and project, and that there's a limited area. I think even before the neighbor made the point, it is true that every neighbor could cut down every tree right up to your property line and then have line of sight. Why they would do it, I don't know. But the buffering requirement is there to protect in those scenarios. And so if there was a straw vote about how best to shape that, you now know where I stand on it. I would be looking for somebody to make a motion.
Okay, so we'll start with the waiver. I'm going to be winging this. I make a motion that the waiver request submitted by Mr. Deal LLC.
Before you start that, do you want me to take a straw poll to see if it's necessary? I'm not sure that it'll be supported.
Okay, well, yeah, because I would not vote for it either. So we can do that, a straw
Excuse
vote.
me. I've been
To
notified,
officially address it?
well, I've been notified that your public hearing is still open.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Linda. Nice work. Good question. I don't know that you can have seconds, sir. I'm not sure of that one. Was there anyone else who, then I am, Mr. Roy? No,
I
okay.
was just saying, you could give his questions to somebody else and they could take a break.
He's had 15 minutes to organize that back there. Unfortunately, I'm going to close the public hearing officially. Thank you, Linda, for keeping us honest. I appreciate that. Let me ask this question. Is there anyone among the board who would like to make a motion to propose the waiver for the buffer? Great, then we have two other motions.
No. Okay, so we will not address the waiver. Okay, so I will make a motion that the application submitted by Mr. Deal LLC for a solar project at 5 Clayton Drive meets all the necessary standards for a conditional use permit contained in the Zoning and Land Use Code in Article 10, Section 3, Standards for Conditional Use Permits. Do I put the conditions to this one or to the other one?
I think both.
The first one or the second one?
The second one.
Okay. All right.
Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you. Discussion? Mark, was that you?
No, it was
Okay.
crushed in my head.
Discussion, Alex.
So just to clarify, this motion is specifically dealing with the conditional use permit allowing for the solar development, which
Yes.
is, it's in a correct zone. This is
Yeah.
the process that you would do to bring solar to that zone. It is not necessarily about the sort of specific issues with the project that staff recommendations
No,
bring
and
up.
solar
And
arrays
I-
are conditional use in all of our zones, so we will always be taking.
Got it. And so just wanted to clarify that to make sure that it's on the record and for people back home.
Great. Any further discussion? Call the roll?
Roger Dupree?
Yes.
Michael Marcotte?
No.
Lucy Bisson, yes. Mark Roy?
Yes.
Shanna Cox?
Yes.
Alexander Pine?
Yes.
Penthea Burns?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion passes.
All right. Second motion, make a motion that the application submitted by Mr. Deal LLC for a solar project at 5 Clayton Drive meets all the necessary criteria contained in the Zoning and Land Use Code, including but not limited to Article 13, Section 4 approval criteria, and that approval be granted with the following conditions. 1, prior to the start of construction, a decommissioning agreement shall be filed with the County Registry of Deeds and provisions for a guarantee be provided for the cost of decommissioning. 2, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall provide an updated plan which meets the buffering standards of Article 13.
Second? From anyone?
I'll second.
Thanks. We agreed that you can second even though we can't vote, right?
That's right.
Love that clarification recently. Thank you, everybody. Any discussion on this motion? Mark?
I'd like to add an additional condition for, that they have a lawyer review the deed restrictions, and that there's a condition that says that upon review of the deed restrictions, that it's an allowable, project before anything is commenced, I suppose, before the project commences, I guess.
Before
Is that language enough, Linda, for you
Or
to capture an
before a
amendment?
building permit is issued.
Yeah, before a building permit
Okay.
is issued.
Would you accept that as an amendment, Lucy? You made the motion?
I will accept it, absolutely.
Zoe,
And
you were the second. Will you accept that amendment as proposed?
Yes.
Great. Any further discussion on the motion as amended? Mr. Marcotte?
Want to understand the condition. So what is going to transpire leading up to the issuance of a building permit with regards to this condition?
From what I understand and what I think Linda is capturing, that the applicant will provide a finding from the professionals who manage deeds, whatever that job title is, to receive a building permit that says this project as proposed meets the deed restrictions.
So some sort of legal interpretations in a form
Yeah.
of a letter to staff.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion from the board? Call the roll?
Roger Dupree,
Yes.
Michael Marcotte,
Yes.
Lucy Bisson, yes. Mark Roy,
Yes.
Shanna Cox.
Yes?
Alexander Pine,
Yes.
Penthea Burns.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
gentlemen.
luck. That went mostly your way, guys, in case you're curious where you landed.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're going to take up our third public hearing of the evening. This is John Lee Lewiston LLC. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Submitting an application for development review amendment to the Lewiston Mall to establish a new retail use and for pedestrian and vehicular improvements at 20 East Avenue on 7.4 acres. Forgive me, Shelley, I believe this is your agenda item.
Yes, just a moment.
Yeah. And for folks who are here, and including my planning board members, we will take a short bio break after public hearings are done and before we move into other business, in case anyone's planning.
Sounds like a plan.
I'm planning. Light at the end of the tunnel so that I don't run out on an applicant.
Aerials that I sent? Because if you have the aerials that I sent, I'm all set.
Okay, they're right here on the desktop.
Perfect.
Welcome.
Okay, so this evening you have before you a request for approval for essentially a change of use for one of the portions of the Lewiston Mall at 20 East Avenue. It was formerly a Sears. It's been vacant for a number of years, and they are looking to put in a new retail store. This location, they've pulled up on the map so you can see that their parcel doesn't include all of the Lewiston Mall, so it's that northwestern corner of it. And the project essentially is the change of use, which involves traffic review and changes to the pavements on site. Plantings will be added. There's a bit of the building that's going to be demolished to make way for ADA parking and planting. And then they have a number of pedestrian improvements that are proposed. So it's fairly minimal as far as site plan changes that you'll see. And a lot of what the review was looking at traffic, which was what triggered it coming before you was the increase in traffic. So, and there were credits given for prior uses there, but it still will be generating enough traffic to cause a traffic movement permit to have to be issued.
Sorry.
Yes.
While you're on that point, we did
Yeah.
receive the draft traffic movement permit as we arrived tonight.
Yeah, so we had a draft in your packet last week, and there's just a couple of minor tweaks that have happened since then. We had held it open for comment for Maine DOT, for our partner at AvCog, as well as for the Complete Streets Committee. And so there were some final comments that the third-party reviewer that the city had hired provided to me today that are pretty minor in nature, that we just wanted to make sure you had. And you'll see as far as the figures go, he had a couple markups on that, so after the meeting, we'll be getting those figures corrected. But those are the comments that he had for the kind of second go-around. There was an initial set of comments and corrections, and that was the final version.
Thank you for providing that update.
Yep.
Did you have more? I'm sorry, I stopped you at the
That's
traffic
okay.
permit. I didn't want you to end there.
Yeah, no. So I just want to point out that because the project doesn't involve additional impervious, it's actually a slight reduction. We weren't required to review stormwater. There were a couple comments from Public Works just to make the applicant aware of some of the conditions of some of the pipes on site that they'll be inspecting during construction and determining if they need to repair. But we really didn't have a lot of comments from Public Works. And As I alluded to, the city typically hires a third-party traffic engineer to do reviews of traffic movement permits. So this project has had 2 traffic engineers working on it, the applicants and ours, as well as oversight with DOT and with our regional partner and also the Complete Streets Committee. So
A lot of cooks. in
we
that
feel
kitchen.
like it's been well studied. But certainly, if you have comments and questions, we're happy to entertain those. The peak traffic at its highest will be 312 trips, which I believe is for the Saturday morning peak time. And you haven't seen before in quite a few years, because it hasn't been in my tenure with you, a traffic movement permit that actually required a number of off-site improvements. So that's a little unusual that you're seeing suggestions for changes to traffic signals, timing, and that sort of thing, as well as sidewalks and crosswalks being installed. But that's, I think that's all I have for comments, unless you have something specific that you want me to talk in more depth about. We do have a couple of conditions of approval we've recommended, and that's really it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions specifically for staff before we hear from the applicant? Please introduce yourselves, gentlemen.
Good evening, Madam Chair. My name is Doug Reynolds with Goral Palmer. With me tonight is John Adams from Barton on Judas. Great representation from Shelley relative to what's been going on. But just to give you a general idea of where it is, I know you know where it is because the item number 1 on the project, on the planning board meeting tonight, was right across the street from us. But again, as you can see, we're right there between Lisbon Street and Bartlett Street, essentially on East Avenue across from the Lewiston Crossing project. And again, it's a very exciting project for the John Lee Lewiston LLC to get this building occupied. And again, as you can see just from this picture, the parking lot's pretty empty. And they really want, I mean, again, it's been 12 years since the Sears has been there. The fact that it has been 12 years is the reason why we're actually here in front of you tonight, because had it only been closed 10, our traffic would have still been, in standing. So again, just that 2 years of being closed or being vacant, again, is the real reason we're here. Nothing else relative to impervious surfaces, development, triggers planning board approval other than the traffic. So again, we're here in front of you, showing you what we're doing. Essentially, it's been a pretty, good process, great communication between staff and the traffic engineers, and we've basically gone through comments from the staff, addressed all of the comments site-wise. Again, this is a little bit blown up just to give you an idea of what's actually going on. There's about 10,000 square feet of the old Sears building on this left-hand side of the building that they're taking down and then putting in the handicap parking spaces along this side. As you may be aware, that the parking lot's actually pretty steep in front. So again, we couldn't have ADA accessible spaces out front. We had to get them alongside. So that was the main idea for that. The loading area is maintained back here where it is today. We will be pushing the sidewalk back a little bit and getting a really large access drive along the front of the building. And again, we're adding these 8 landscape islands. That's that slight decrease of impervious surfaces. In relative to utilities, the building is going to use the existing utilities, sewer, water. We are going to be adding a new transformer because the old transformer is old. So we're improving that. There's no stormwater improvements, but as Shelley alluded to, there's an area over here behind the Save-A-Lot that the water flows off this parking lot and kind of has some effects on the back, on the adjacent property. So we're adding a catch basin there and connecting to this. There's some piping underneath the ground there in that area that we're going to connect to. And again, Shelley also alluded to some comments from Public Works that they've done some videoing of those pipes, and there's some there may be some cave-ins or whatever, so they're going to video them, then repair them as part of this construction. Just to talk about MDOT permitting, we've gone through, had a lot of comments relative to pedestrian access. And I got to open the other plan. That one. And close all the windows. The main concern of the DOT reviewer was the pedestrian access to the site. As you may be aware, there actually isn't any right now. So over at the Lisbon Street, see if I can zoom this in. Over at the, oh, I can't, I gotta, where's my little arrow guy? I gotta use your bottom things, yeah. You know, we're proposing a sidewalk that hugs that retaining wall, you know, right along the top of the retaining wall to get to the Save-A-Lot. And then we actually have access, you know, across to the new building. You know, we're gonna do this the whole time, aren't we?
If I may, actually.
Yep, go ahead.
If you, that floating menu
Oh,
on the upper left.
There it is, yep. It's that, is it that one? Yeah, it's the pan one. Thank you. Little different from my Adobe. So over here on East Avenue, get this guy out of the way somehow. There you go. To address your concern relative to the previous application, there is currently a crosswalk across Shaw's driveway. And again, there are pedestrian push-button activators. We chose to put the crosswalk here because of that, and there's actually more space on this side, and this sidewalk will lead down to the corner of the sidewalk in front of this building here. So again, that's why we chose the location for that crosswalk, for that intersection. Over here, there's just less space, it's a steeper slope, and if we ran down this island here, it would lead us to nowhere. So again, that was what working with DOT got us to. There was no access really from Bartlett, so we're showing an access here, and actually the updated plans that that Shelley has, that she alluded to relative to the minor comments, we're actually constructing a small island, a curbed space here to protect the pedestrians where it comes to the end of that parking bay. Relative to other MDOT improvements, again, there's some minor tweaks to the timing and the layout of the Bartlett and Pleasant Ave intersection, and other minor changes to the other intersections, and some ADA improvements at each of those intersections.
Excuse me, what do you mean by timing and layout?
Go ahead,
Changes to
John.
the timing and layout.
Thank you. So we can get into as much detail as you'd like.
Just didn't know what that meant.
So at one of the signals, we're going to be changing the phasing of the signal to make it safer. This is over at East Ave at Bartlett. You probably know today there's protected lefts there, short phases, but then it's permissive for a long time, so it's up to you to try to cross 2 lanes of traffic. And it was identified as a high crash location intersection. And so we looked at different combinations of really only having protected only lefts on the East Ave approaches. And so we're going to be doing what we call split phasing, which the simple thing is one side of East Ave will go while the other side stopped, and then the other side will go. So that's going to require some signal reprogramming, a couple of new signal heads.
Do you mean all around the entire, do you mean timing all around at each of those intersections, at East and Lisbon and East and?
So the focus of the timing changes is east of Bartlett. There's going to be some at the East Ave site entrance because we are putting a crosswalk in. That's going to affect the timing changes. And then because a lot of the signals on East Ave are all coordinated together, I think there's a condition of approval in the traffic movement permit for us to kind of take a look at everything and make sure the changes we're making here doesn't stop the smooth flow of traffic up and down East Ave.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank goodness for that.
Sorry for the interruption.
And I'm glad I have John with me.
Would you like to see if the planning board has any questions for you?
Again, that's, I'm pretty much done with my explanation. I'd be happy to answer questions as we go forward.
Thanks. Questions from the board?
Are you still going to have access to your facility from the mall? Where O'Reilly is?
Internally, you mean?
Yeah.
No. This building is completely separate from the mall. Only access from the front.
I think they closed off the internal.
Did they close that
I think they
off?
closed off the internal walkway.
Other questions from the board? Oh, sorry, Roger.
And now you're building a sidewalk on East Avenue down into the mall?
On the East Avenue driveway, on the right-hand side of the driveway going down the hill.
So you're going to build a sidewalk
We're building a
there?
sidewalk there, yep.
Crosswalk.
To a crosswalk down to the buildings.
That
Yep,
ought to be fun.
yep. I mean, you can get your sleds out in the wintertime.
Other
Have you
questions?
seen the idiots that drive down there?
I know.
Yeah,
I-
we reviewed it in the field.
The islands that you'll be adding will do a lot for some of the cross driving that
Yes.
happens. With it being so empty and no cars there,
Everybody,
I am
the
guilty
buses,
myself.
The buses
as
go straight across there.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
It's exit to Duncan is the pathway that I usually see,
Oh, yeah.
particularly in the morning. Mr. Marcotte, did you have a question?
Yeah, a couple. So I guess I made some assumptions before I arrived
Will you
tonight.
pull your mic for me? Thank you.
I guess I made a few assumptions before I arrived tonight, and I'm panning through the paperwork. But John Lee is the owner of the mall, right? Basically, the portion of the mall.
They're the owner of a larger portion of the mall. The trampoline and stuff to the Bartlett side is a separate owner.
A separate owner.
Yep.
And the grocery that's referred to in the application is unnamed at this time?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. And leads me to a question that probably I know the answer to. In the financial capacity, it doesn't state an amount. I was kind of curious, but unless it's a trade secret, I'm curious as to the cost of the development of the project.
To put it another way, is there any information you could provide about the potential tax revenue for the development of this property?
Well, I wasn't.
that your
Actually,
question?
well, that wasn't the reason I was asking, but I was curious, because last project it was stated right in the capacity as $520,000 for the project. I didn't know if this was 4 million, 10 million, 20 million.
Yeah, the site work is probably somewhere around $1 million, if that, not even. No,
Because the
not
building's
not
already
even.
there.
Yeah, because the building's already there. I mean, it's internal fixturing and things like that, again, Jean Lee is doing the site work.
Yeah.
But the store that ends up coming in, they would do their own work.
Is there somebody coming in, or is this just prospect?
We can get an approval, it'll most likely be happening pretty quickly.
Pretty quickly, okay.
Yeah.
I live in the neighborhood, so I'm very curious. I've lived there for 62 of my 63 years, and I'm happy to see something happening there in the Sears building. I've been asking previous directors and the current director for all kinds of different entities to arrive there. Weren't expecting this particular industry. I also see that you got some downlighting in here. So it's going to be only coming down, there
The,
won't
the
be glare
exist,
out.
the existing light that's out there meets the down, the dark sky compliant, and we're only adding in the wall packs on the building, which again, those will be cut off in dark sky.
Because I have a concern that I've shared with the director, that there are locations in Lewiston that the glare goes right out into the intersection, and that's a concern. And I saw that the shape here was downlighting in the...
Yeah, and they're the LEDs now too, so it's much better.
Other questions from the board? Alex?
I was holding off just in case because of course I'm going to talk a lot about this.
Bike racks?
No, not bike racks. We'll get to that later. It's a joke. I'm always bringing up bike racks. So I guess I had some clarifying questions about the pedestrian entrance from East Ave.
Yep.
So I think Mark Roy brought this up earlier, if there was a possibility that we could have changing the signal timing at that intersection so that it's like an all-ped and put in either were you thinking like all-ped so you can do a diagonal?
Yeah.
Like a scramble?
Yeah, I mean, I prefer pedestrian crossings just to be, just stop all traffic. I don't like.
No right turns where someone can get
I don't
hit.
like traffic moving when I'm trying to cross the street. I don't care where it's
Yeah.
going. So I personally, especially when you got elderly people, I would suggest a comment to Public Works to say, well, why don't you just make it all, just stop. Everybody just stop your cars so we can just move and I'll walk. And then you can, once I'm crossed, now you guys can go.
Here, here.
Yeah, so I'm not the most knowledgeable about this in the room, but I will say that it would have to be warranted as far as like the use. So I'm not sure as that's the case. Certainly pedestrian timing with the signals has been something that has been brought up by the Complete Streets Committee and talked about with our third-party reviewer, and there was some discussion about it. John, do you want to talk about that at all, or?
Sure. So I think in some cases, there's reasons to look at an exclusive ped face at a signal, but just know when you do those, it has the most impact to the capacity of the intersection to move everybody, and sometimes that's the thing to do. I think what the goals lately have been is to try to operate in what we call a concurrent ped face. So like if you're crossing East Ave, we stop East Ave, but the side streets might be going. So yeah. Another thing we're doing though with the concurrent ped phases is we're putting up these what we call blank out signs, and you might see them at some intersections now. They just sit there dark. But if you were on East Ave, say, and the ped phase got hit to cross East Ave, all of a sudden that light would come on and it would start flashing at you, no turn on red. So in case you were gonna maybe take a right turn into the mall, it's going to flash that you don't do that because a ped face has been hit and it's gonna be right in your face flashing. So we've got those in the design with this. So it's kind of a balance. Instead of going to an exclusive ped face, it's putting the concurrent in and then having these other safety features. I think that would be a good first step for this intersection. It is a new crossing.
Yeah, I would say, just as a comment to whoever the reviewer is and to Public Works, if we're basing the decision of what we're doing at this intersection on current use, I think that's pretty detrimental to the fact that there's going to be a huge housing development here, and like making sure that sort of the built infrastructure can support that. I mean, even if you do have these extra safety features, which I've seen them around town and I've used them because I walk to meetings and stuff, I think still having a crosswalk on every street could be really beneficial here. Just in terms of making it easier for pedestrians. So you're not waiting for priority to be on East Ave, so then you have to do that crossing. It just adds a lot of time, and I think when you add time, you provide greater incentive to people to not necessarily follow the infrastructure. So if it's possible to do without affecting the project too much cost-wise, I think that could be a really valuable addition. And it would also benefit some of the other businesses on the property, like the drugstore, which I would imagine senior citizens are probably going to want to cross the street. Being able to have those crossings, I think, could be really beneficial. So just throwing that out there as
Alex,
a
before you
request.
carry on with additional
Sure.
points, can we actually talk about that one for
Sure.
a second? I'd like to weigh in personally. I get a little concerned when every time there's a new project, we try to include all of the public infrastructure upgrades on the back of the applicant. And I would say if you look at everything that is missing, sidewalks, and there have been a number of proposed projects in the past years. We tried to do the same thing to the first applicant today. I would like to see our city say thank you for all of this development, thank you for the new housing, thank you for new jobs and new business, and for us to contribute to the other 3 crosswalks that aren't painted in this. And so I just, like, your points are well taken and should
Sure.
be delivered to Public Works, and to me, do not relate to our, not that I heard that from you, but to our conversation with the applicant. It is frustrating to me that we're finally, if you go back to the Legacy Lewiston Comp Plan, which is our guiding document, this entire area, when you really zoom out and you look at all of the gray between the Gendron project, the Shaw's project, this project, we're finally getting the infill that we want. And it is up to us to continue to design and develop infrastructure that further supports that and not make it harder for each applicant to come through.
Yep.
And I just, on the record, it really gets my goat, and I feel like it's a point that needs to get made. We can't demand additional development and say we don't get projects and not meet them where they're at to contribute to them.
Yep, I agree.
A wonderful
You have
point.
other I'm sorry.
I did. And actually, the whole timing at that light was sort of a side question to what I was actually really wondering about. I'm having a hard time telling in the plan where the sidewalk ends and the crosswalk begins, because it looks like maybe the driveway apron on, as we go down the sidewalk from East Ave. Yeah, if we can get in a little closer there. So it looks like maybe
Right there, there's an ADA ramp
Uh-huh.
there to an ADA ramp over here.
Got it. It looks like maybe the island on the other side, or the median, whatever you want to call it, on the left-hand side is maybe a bit longer. Am I misreading this visually?
It might be, it's, pretty much straight across.
Yeah.
But again, it comes to a point on that,
Mhm.
so there's no space.
What's the distance of that crosswalk?
This one here is about, it's probably actually.
Was it 40?
It's about 40, yeah.
40 feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alex, what's the question?
So, yeah, the question is there a way that we could, like was done over on the other side of the property, is there a way that we can shorten that distance to?
Build and add to the building? Or?
No. You're going to add to the sidewalk. So
Sidewalk would
bring
come
the
down
curbing
further?
out just to make it safer for folks crossing. Because I can imagine folks coming down the ramp and taking a right-hand turn, high rate of speed, not paying attention. And it's just a large amount of area for someone to cross without a lot of protection. There's no signal, there's nothing there. So it's just a question if that is a possibility or if that is difficult because of the site.
As part of the DOT conditions of approval, we have to get additional survey for each of these intersections and then thoroughly design the improvements. So
Okay.
as part of that, again, we're showing this right now, that's on an aerial photo. So again, we'll get that, and again, just even looking right here, it's kind of blurry. I think the grass ends there. Maybe this walkway might want to end closer to there. So again, we'll get that survey in, and then that'll be designed and meet the requirements.
Okay, I guess this is encouragement. Anything you can do to shorten the distance of the crosswalk, I think would be great for patrons of the businesses there. It would be safer for the drivers. It would just make everyone's life a lot more pleasant. The other question I have, I think I already know the answer to it. Did this survey look at any of the other pedestrian flows on the property? So like Key Bank or CVS, there's no pedestrian infrastructure going over to those businesses, right?
Not at this point, no.
Okay. Yep, and, the joke about bike racks, I would encourage you, if you can include bike racks as something that's under an overhang, near a front door, in a place where people can get to them, not in the back by the dumpsters, it makes it a lot easier for folks on bikes. I would definitely shop here. It would be my closest grocery store, besides the Shaw's, if there were bike racks that I could chain up to.
You'd find also that there is a significant number of kids in the neighborhood who also use bike racks, who love going to the grocery store after school.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get them on there.
Yeah, and as more investments put into the property, I think, and anything that can be done to add pedestrian infrastructure would be great.
Thanks. So recommendations.
Yep.
Okay. Any further questions? Then I'd be looking to open this up for a public hearing, of which case you would come to the podium, state your name, your address, and you'd be limited to 3 minutes. Yeah, you're welcome to go get in line right behind him, and then we'll know.
My name is James Dean. I live at 31 Androscoggin Avenue in Lewiston. Sears is literally in my backyard, and I am asking and pleading to see if you guys can do something about the drainage. For the last 2 years that I've lived in this home, my backyard has turned into nothing but a swamp because the flooding that goes on from that property. There's no drainage or anything there. I've heard from my neighbors, and they told me in the past there was drainage there, but for some reason there is not there now. It is getting flooding so badly that it floods into my basement of my home, which was up to my knee last winter. And I don't know what to do about it. I have black mold right now in my basement because I do not know how to tackle it or anything. Secondly, I'm asking, one of my neighbors told me there were pipes underneath that I guess some of you talked about that were either caved in or crashed in. Please look into that. Lastly, one thing I will say is, I'd have to look at my phone to make sure, but I think it was last week. If you look on Lewiston Rocks, you probably would see it, that I posted a video under J. Byron Dean, which is my name on Facebook, that I talked about an alarm that went off in that area. And I called the police. It was like around probably 2 in the morning or so. And it woke me up, and I called the police and asked them what was going on. They didn't even have an idea what happened. They didn't even get back to me. I had to walk there to ask them and to show them where the alarm was going off. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ed Plord, and I'm at 25 Coburn Street, and that is my neighborhood. And I remember when Sears was built. I've been living in that neighborhood since 1970. 1952, excuse me. I've got one comment about bike racks. If you take your bike to Shaw's, there's no place to even hook it onto. It would be nice to have at least one little bike rack so you could put a minimum of 2 bikes on there. I think that's a great idea. The second one is, when I was on the city council and Sears was being built, no one was addressing the fence in the back of the building. There's virtually no buffer between the homes and the property of the mall. And I was instrumental in getting a, what do they call it, not arcade fence, but a stockade fence, same idea, no, all the way in the back of the yellow line there. So this fence now has started to deteriorate. Who's in charge of the maintenance and the replacement of this fence for animal control, rodent control, and line of sight control? And what do we need to do to maintain that fence along all those properties? And those are single-family home properties, the whole length of it.
Thank you. Anyone else looking to speak in public comment? I want to remember to close at this time on time, folks. Last call. closing public comment. You had a couple of questions that came up. Another recommendation for bike racks. We heard about the pipes and drainage causing some impact. It sounded like that was noted by staff, and I saw acknowledgement from the applicant. The alarms and fencing, I would propose that if the fencing, as you recall from your days on council, if it was a requirement of the development, then maintaining it in good standing is also a requirement of the property owner, and you'd make your complaint to code enforcement. Is there any edits to that staff would like to offer? That would be your recourse. Okay. Thanks. Any comments to any of the questions there, Rose, that you'd like to make?
No, I think we're good.
Great. Any final questions from the board before we seek a motion? And I'd be looking for a motion. Lucy's carrying that way tonight. Is that you making it?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
Go ahead.
So I can vote for something tonight.
All right.
Make a motion that the application submitted by John Lee Lewiston LLC for an amendment to the Lewiston Mall to establish a new commercial retail store in the former Sears location at 20 East Avenue on 7.4 acres meets all of the necessary criteria contained in the zoning and land use code, including but not limited to Article 13, Section 4, approval criteria, and meets the requirements of Maine DOT Chapter 305 as amended for a traffic movement permit, and that the development approval be granted with the following conditions. 1, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall pay any review fees to the city for the review of the traffic study and development of traffic movement permit. Number 2, prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the applicant shall meet all conditions enumerated in the traffic movement permit, coordinate with the city as part of the compliance. Number 3, prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the applicant's engineer shall certify that all improvements have been completed in accordance with the approved plans, including but not limited to stormwater and utilities, pavements, plantings, and exterior building materials.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Third. Any further discussion from the board? Call the roll.
Roger Dupree.
Yes.
Michael Marcotte.
Yes.
Lucy Bisson, yes. Mark Roy.
Yes.
Shanna Cox.
Yes.
Alexander Pine.
Abstain?
And Penthea Burns.
Yes.
Thanks. Any notes for your abstention you'd like on the record?
Sure, I am absolutely in support of this project. I think it's fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. I abstained because I would love to see, and this is more of a comment for our internal process, as you were saying, more investment to help make projects like this pedestrian and bike friendly on our end, and making sure that when we bring in outside help, that sort of the local needs are being accounted for. I'm a little worried that the stuff we saw today didn't think about, the Lewiston housing project that's going in. So I'm abstaining so that I can make that comment, not because I'm not in support of this project. It's fantastic. Look forward to hitching up my bike in front of this new store.
You can make those comments and vote, too.
I know.
I would offer to staff, I'd like to actually put a little meat behind what Alex is proposing. As we, as you all do the planning and prepare in your department for the capital improvement plan process, there's been a number of developments. If you look at what Gendron has put in, it would be very easy to monetize the amount of developments and the amount of new revenue. And we are paying significant attention to the Riverfront Island Master Plan. This body has spent significant time looking at commercial corridors, of which this intersection links to. I think it deserves the opportunity to propose something meaningful from the city and this revenue in terms of what we might be able to do at the East Ave Lisbon Street intersection, as well as the Bartlett, given that Connors has gone in since Legacy Lewiston happened. And so that holistic approach is the work of both planning and here, and I'm sure that you're doing it. But I'd like to just add to Alex's request that we specifically hear something about that during the capital improvement planning process that's coming up. Thank you. Thank you, applicants.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
And happy building.
I'm calling a 5-minute recess.
Sounds like a plan.
And tips.
No, that's fine. Go ahead. I figured that's what you were. That's what I used to do. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Where are you? I noticed some stuff on
Oh, goodness gracious.
Project that might have some bearings on like the concerns that the neighbor brought up, and maybe contractor could do a better job of what they're putting on the plan. So this project entails the installation of a photovoltaic system that will not be a net electricity energy exporter to the utility grid.
I was thinking the same thing.
It really pisses me off that they, it's no big deal. Well, it is a big deal. When I
This
had,
is it
before I had my
planned to
niece
be on a
fix-
carport?
I mean, I
a
couldn't have
structure,
left that.
which is a
I couldn't
building?
have.
There's no reason why they
Because if
can't.
that's not the case,
Dr.
we have
Shaw's
an EV
and
charging
friggin'
station. That's not the
A
project
little
that was discussed.
walkway
I know.
at the north end of that friggin' thing.
This is
And,
just like
they didn't want to
copy-paste problems.
remove any trees.
They're not removing trees, they're going between the trees.
Well, even if
Come
they
on.
remove, they have to remove like
One tree.
And, oh, there's a guardrail. Well, cut
Yeah.
yeah.
But she didn't mean that.
I didn't
I
say
guess
well.
this is more
But-
like they're trying to do a good thing
Yes.
here, and I think they might need guidance on that. Yeah. Also, they chose very expensive.
Yeah, no, I didn't bring my
Well,
water
yeah,
for
it is.
Thursday, so.
I wouldn't do it this way, but. Yeah, so the equipment they use,
Yeah.
they're using,
The original.
basically it puts a little electronic module on each solar panel. And then there's a central inverter that handles the power conversion. And so those additional little modules are really handy when it's on the roof to like deal with shading or, emergency situations where you want to shut down the panels, but where it's on a rack in the middle of the field where you can just look at the thing, see if there's a problem. It's a lot of extra equipment.
Our mics are still hot and you're still recording while we're on break, is that right?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
That's mandatory.
Yes.
Just check in.
But, yeah.
Before you say something really unsavory.
Yeah, just being aware of my surroundings. For what it's worth, I wasn't joking so much as like, anybody who has ever watched any of our proceedings should come prepared to talk about pedestrian access and bike racks, and it was an invitation.
Yeah.
Not a joke.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's sort of a joke in the fact that, I am the one.
Roger always covers wetlands.
Yeah. So we all get
Our own strengths,
our
I
little
just-
pet peeve.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I completely agree with, wanting to make sure that, because like, the interface of this project to all the projects across it, it's just like, it's not either
And that's our
person.
work. That's like specifically our purview and the purview of the department.
Yeah, and I don't know, because my partner's on Complete Streets, and when Catherine was telling me about the project, I don't think they were told about, they don't know about the other development. We did ask for this earlier in the year to like talk with Complete Streets, just to have like a yearly, hey, here's what we've worked on, here's what you've worked on. Maybe, could we put that in other business just to renew that request?
Can I bring it up?
Yeah.
Everybody back?
Yep.
No, Linda's gone.
Oh,
Everybody gets their chance, though.
yeah, absolutely.
At first it was money, they couldn't get the funding. Well, they got the funding. All the
No one wants to.
Big fans of that last one.
Straight ground, right?
They were outside shaking
Well,
hands.
that was a year ago.
Great.
This is very exciting
Now
though
all of
as
a
a
sudden,
project.
they were supposed to
So
break down
I
in
was around
December.
when we put Legacy Lewiston
That's been pushed
together,
back
and
again. Now
there's
we
like a
have a-
3-page
Oh,
layout.
there's rumors online.
It's like added
Yeah.
2 feet to the friggin', what difference does it make?
If you look at the Legacy
We'll
Lewiston
talk about
comp
it.
plan.
No, I wouldn't say it there. I used to put a
There's a
little.
lot of work done to reimagine.
Catherine brought it up at dinner
Look
The same thing
the other
with
night.
Satellite, it's like parking,
Yeah,
parking.
I didn't even at your house, so you might have been in the kitchen or
Reimagining
something.
infill housing development,
stop there,
should be
walking in
A lot safer.
to an
Well,
Indian
no,
school,
well,
and
gee
we're
whiz,
like,
you know, it's
Well,
an
and it would,
check
they could take the
check
bus
that.
and go to
Like,
Shaw's,
there's already been a lot of
Well,
those
it's an
changes,
extra
and
stop.
so like,
Bus
sure,
driver
you
can't
pony
do
up.
that.
Yeah.
You're driving a friggin' bus. That's what you're doing.
Are we good?
Go there, you go there.
Welcome back, everyone. Calling us back to order. We are now in other business, and we're going to take up the planning board making a recommendation to the city council on the disposition of 32 Horton Street and 23 Howe Street. That's you, Craig.
So these two properties were tax acquired and require the city to follow the provisions of 5.2.1 shown on the memo. About the properties, starting with 23 Howe Street. Again, it was tax acquired in February of 2018. Total taxes, utilities, demolition, legal costs estimated to be to date total $63,815. The current assessed value of the now vacant lot, $17,000. Property previously had a 3-unit dwelling. It is located in the downtown residential zone, approximately 50 by 100. This is a conforming lot, and given our zoning ordinance, it could allow up to 4 dwelling units on the property. The downtown residential zone allows a wide range of residential uses and a wide range of commercial uses. 32 Horton Street, also tax acquired in July 2025. Total costs, taxes, utilities, demolition, legal costs, total $20,800. And the current assessed value of the land is $15,600. Also in the downtown residential, a little smaller, about 40 by 100, and could allow up to 3 dwelling units, and all other commercial uses that would be allowed on the other property. The comprehensive plan, so both lots are in the infill growth sector, G5, which is described also in the memo. And the reuse of these properties for infill development would be consistent with those stated goals. The only other thing I didn't mention is that there are no known wetlands, shoreland zoning, or flood hazard areas on either property.
I hope not.
I hope not. Yeah, right.
Checking that box, Craig. Thank you so much.
Try to be thorough.
Questions from the board, comments?
I do have a comment.
Sure, Alex.
I love this packet. All the information in it, everything that you read off is fantastic. It really helps me make a great recommendation.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to offer to this, 15 years ago when I started talking about housing and our downtown in this community, infill development was laughable and folks thought that that wasn't going to be something that anyone would ever want to do. And we've successfully seen a number of infill, both private and partnership as well as public. It is not just the Wedgwood property. And so I'm excited to get these back on the tax rolls and sold and see what people do with them. I'm supportive.
Absolutely. I think it's fantastic.
Do you need any specific? Yes, we need a motion.
Yeah.
Could I make the motion?
Absolutely.
And I would like to perhaps put a condition in it, because it's not really binding.
Well, a condition would be binding.
Well, our recommendation to the city council is not binding.
Is not binding anyways, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I think the condition I would like to add, if the board likes it, is that we strongly recommend that these be sold for development, not for a parking lot. I mean, it has no teeth, but
Yeah.
Way to state it.
Yeah.
Go ahead and make the motion.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion pursuant to Article 7, Section 4H of the Zoning and Land Use Code to send a favorable recommendation to the City Council for the disposition of 23 Howe Street and 32 Horton Street with the intention that they're sold for redevelopment.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Roger Dupree?
Yes.
Michael Marcotte?
No.
Lucy Bisson, yes. Mark Roy?
Yes.
Shanna Cox?
Yes.
Alexander Pine?
Yes.
Anthea Burns?
Yes.
All right.
Motion passes. Did you want to put anything on the record, Mr. Marcotte?
Well, I was a little slow in the uptake during the discussion, but regardless of internal emails, the interested buyer is not mentioned by city staff. There's none akin to Alex's concern. We don't know what's going to happen with this property. It could be sold for parking lots, which I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to. Along Bartlett Street years ago, there was a vacant property that was going to be used for a parking lot, and that became a nice little discussion between who was going to get the property. And a butter right there in between Bartlett and the street behind it, which might be Horton, or the one across the street, which was already a public-private project. So with all those concerns and what I've had for concerns in the past with respect to acquisitions and dispositions, I just didn't feel comfortable voting for this or any of them tonight because there's still a lack of information being provided to the board. It's like this. You're expecting a rubber stamp, and I'm not a rubber stamp.
Thanks, and we'll note that you is not necessarily who you're looking at or even the staff in the room when you're making that statement?
Staff in general, the administration on down.
I just want to point out, since these were tax acquired, that the city has to sell them to the highest bidder through a real estate broker. So we don't really have the ability to, vet what they're going to do with it, and we can't put it out for RFP. So just
And
point
I
that out.
appreciate you reminding us of that, which we discussed in great detail and had an attorney present to us at a previous meeting and committed to remembering for future dispositions.
Yep.
Mr. Roy?
No, nothing.
Okay. Then we'd be taking up item B, the planning board making a recommendation to the city council on the disposition of 23 Sand Hill Road. Craig, it's yours again.
I'll jump to the second page of the memo, just on information on 23 Sand Hill Road. The City Council accepted the donation of this parcel in lieu of tax acquiring it at their October 21st, 2025 meeting. Therefore, the parcel does not have to be sold in accordance with the tax acquired property state law returning excess proceeds. Total estimated taxes, utilities, demolition, and legal costs to date are $42,233. Total assessed value of the now vacant lot is $16,800. This might be a familiar property since in the fall of 2023, Department of Planning and Code, actually, I'm sorry, there might have been some action on this previously, but our Department of Planning and Code, demolished the existing single-family home on the property as a dangerous building. As far as the zoning is concerned, it's in the NCB zone, the Neighborhood Conservation B zone. It allows similar uses to the downtown residential, or basically a wide range of residential uses and some reduced commercial uses, but limited commercial uses. The lot size at 11,000 square foot and 200 feet of frontage is actually too small currently to allow for a dwelling unit. That's because we basically have to do a study of like all of the lots within a certain area of that lot, of that property in a 500-foot area, and get the average density and then use that density as sort of a marker of what would be allowed there. So currently it's too small, but we are anticipating some new state changes that the city has to come into compliance with by July of this coming year. And once those take effect, then we're anticipating that the property would be allowed up to 4 or more dwelling units.
Wow. Okay.
In addition, there are no known wetlands, shoreline zoning, or flood hazard areas on the property. It's located in the G3 sector, which is the intended growth sector, and the reuse of this property for infill development with the current allowed uses for the zone would be consistent with the stated goals of that G3 sector.
Thank you. Discussion from the board? Questions, comments?
I'd like to make a motion.
Please do.
Okay. Making a motion pursuant to Article 7, Section 4H of the Zoning and Land Use Code to send a favorable recommendation to the City Council for the disposition of 23 Sand Hill Road. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Roger Dupree?
Yes.
Michael Marcotte?
No.
Lucy Bisson, yes. Mark Roy?
Yes.
Shanna Cox?
Yes.
Alexander Pine?
Yes.
And Penthea Burns?
Yes.
Please let the record reflect Mr. Marcotte's previous statement that he would be voting no on each, and we won't seek an explanation. We'll be taking up item C, the planning board making a yeah.
You gonna put words in my mouth?
No, I'm quoting that which you put on the record.
You did quote, but does that actually mean that you can make that as a blanket statement? I would add, on this property, I'm very familiar with the area. I grew up in this area. No, that's a very depressed area. Part of my reason for not voting for this one, which is a little bit different than the blanket statement across all three, is that we accepted this as a donation, and as everyone should remember, I voted against the donation as well, because we in Lewiston seem to have a habit to pay high, sell low. And then when we sell low, a lot of times, as we're seeing the growth of nonprofit in Lewiston, there is very little revenue stream in Lewiston, but there is a heavy expense stream for what ends up in those places as far as the draw on our resources, our services, whether that's school, police, fire, recreation, library, or any other particular service that I've failed to mention.
Thank you. Mr. Roy.
It's not in the purview of the, of this board to manage the finances of the
Everything
town.
is in our purview.
Please do not interrupt
It is not
when
the
somebody has been
purview
given
of
the
the board
floor.
to manage the finances of this town. It is not in the keeping of the comp plan to manage the finances of this town. So please keep your comments pertinent to the comp plan if we're the keepers of the comp plan, which is what the staff have designed these comments for, which was in response to your complaints earlier. If you're going to be a curmudgeon about everything,
If you're going
and
to
then-
bankrupt this city, because you can plan a city into
Mr. Marcotte,
bankruptcy.
that is enough.
I apologize. If there are going to be curmudgeonly comments that are going to request extra work from the staff that they respond to, and then you're just going to constantly berate them or people are going to constantly berate them afterwards, it's not very helpful.
Mr. Marcotte, would you like to respond now?
Yes.
Can you please keep it
As
civil?
far as the efforts of staff, whether that's planning staff, whether that's economic development, whether it's the administration itself, we need to be looking at bringing in business into this community, not just hovering around and waiting for every nonprofit to come in, every project that actually draws more on our community than puts into the community. You notice I supported one particular project. I wanted to make the motion to make a statement on that as well, because those are the projects we need to bring to Lewiston, projects that are going to create jobs, create tax revenue, to pay for those services. Every year, our finances, and it is the purview of the planning board. Every question one can think of is the purview of the planning board, because you can plan yourself into bankruptcy. Take a look at Detroit and a few other locales across the country over the last 50, 60 years. And so everything should be put through a filter. The comprehensive plan even has a segment on finance, probably a little too small in my opinion, but it's there.
Mr. Marcotte, we're going to move on to agenda item C now. The planning board making a recommendation to the city council on the acquisition of 20 Martin Drive. Shelley.
Okay, so this parcel of land has been offered for sale to the city by the owner, and there's been discussion with Public Works and with administration about this. We, as a city, have been looking for an area to purchase or an existing portion of the city that would allow us to come into compliance with the public parks that we were required to build. So we took water conservation funding from National Park Service many years ago, and over the course of time, some of those facilities have been demolished. We are looking to replace those facilities because we have to do that. And this particular location already has been used by the community as a public recreation facility. The Roman Catholic Bishop of Portland, Portland Diocese owns it, and they've leased it to different community groups over the years. Past uses have included ice rinks, tennis courts, and baseball fields. So This would be a great location for us to have as a continued use recreationally for the community. It would solve one of the issues the city has, which is acquiring more of recreational facilities. And then there's also a deed restriction in it that it would only be used for a free playground or religious facilities. So it seems like a win-win as far as for the owner as well as for the city. You may recall a few years back when the city tried to look at some other locations that Public Works had thought would be really good and neighbors were not supportive. So there's been effort for a number of years to solve this problem, and this facility has come forward as a possibility. So as far as the comprehensive plan, this is located in a critical natural resource sector of the city, and its intention in the plan is to have land in this area be acquired for conservation through purchase, easement, and efforts to protect it in perpetuity, and for it to be, in this case, the use of a non-intensive recreation would be supportive of that. The agreement that the city has would be for $210,000 for the purchase price. And currently, right now, the total assessed value of the land and buildings is $102,000. So there are a couple of structures on site right now. So in addition to the ball fields, which you can see in the aerial photo, there are a couple of accessory buildings for storage and that sort of thing.
Snack shacks.
Snack shacks, dugout.
Thanks. Discussion from the board. Mr. Pine, and then Mr. Marcotte.
I think this makes a lot of sense, looking sort of at the overall neighborhood. It's, obviously been used as parkland. It's very accessible. It also is fairly close to a potential new trail right-of-way that, from my understanding, is sort of in process, has been for many years. So that could open up access to even more of the city, and it seems to make a lot of sense given our obligations around funding. So I'm definitely in support of this.
Thanks. Mr. Marcotte?
Series of questions. Does this requirement with the Conservation Fund complete the requirement? Or is there still acreage necessary?
I am not sure the answer of that. Public Works has been managing that and working with the state to come into compliance. I don't know if the city administrator and Director Gagne's memo mentions that. Let me just see if it does.
I'm rather confused with respect to the requirements from, it was said Connors School, because somewhere in the mix, there was trade-offs with the park where the pool was removed, the tennis, I don't know if the tennis courts are still there, there's a softball field there now, but there was a whole lot of huge development, some state money, and some even local, in order to get the amenities that we wanted. Hudson Bus, down below, there was some trade-off there. The East Cody Street on Webster Street was supposed to be part of the trade-off. I don't know if that became part of the actual trade-off, if it didn't happen. And now this, and interesting, $210,000 for this. And I'm thinking about, and I don't see it in here, the discussion about the Little League. Did the Little League, which I believe went from Little League official to Cal Ripken a number of years ago, did they utilize this field last year? What's their future with respect to this? What's the city's intentions with the fields? Are they going to build soccer fields? Are they going to put the tennis courts back in that were once there? I played in this before the 1975 reference from somebody at the state, whatever department he hails from. And yeah, it's been a baseball field since what did it say in here, 62, maybe even earlier. It just seems like something is missing from the mix, and that was, is, not was, that is the most recent use of this field by, I presume it was Cal Ripken.
Shelley, are you prepared to answer any of those questions?
I can say that the Cody Street project is the one I was talking about that I said is no longer moving forward because the neighbors didn't want it. So that's not a site that can be used for rec conversion.
Well, that's why I equivocated on that one, because I thought maybe it did go through, but
No.
there's something in the back of my mind that said it didn't, so.
Yeah, so staff has been looking for another location. And actually, at the end of Director Gagne's memo, it does mention that a appraisal needs to be done. So I believe how much this will take care of the city's obligation depends on the appraisal that comes back. So we may need other locations as well. I'm not sure yet if we have an answer to that question.
And the one item that I failed to mention is, this is obviously going to have a LCIP cost, and there's no discussion as to that or what the city might be looking to use it for, which would indicate what we might expect for LCIP requests in the future. I mean, it does cost money to maintain these buildings. I've been in these buildings as a kid. I'm sure some of them have been rebuilt. And this wasn't cheap. The league and its volunteers put sweat and financial resources into the building of this. The city to just simply swoop in, give the Diocese of Portland $210,000, makes them happy, and then do something different with it, I don't think would be fair, and I haven't seen or heard that discussion.
Thanks. For my part, I would imagine that we'd see proposals not only during the capital improvement plan, but also that they wouldn't invest, I hope, staff time or resources or expenses into planning for fields which we haven't acquired.
Right, exactly. At this point, we need to figure out if this is going to move forward before we would, imagine when they submit something to the state to see if it will meet the rec conversion, eventually there is a plan for the park that would be approved by the state. So I can't speak yet to whether it's going to stay baseball or whether there's going to be other things. I will say in Director Gagne's memo, it does mention that they have $287,000 available in an account, the Cody Street account that they had already earmarked for rec conversion. So it sounds like funds are available if I'm reading this correctly.
Yeah, set aside from 23 and 24 is what it stated. Yep. Other discussion from the board? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion. Make a motion pursuant to Article 7, Section 4H of the Zoning and Land Use Code to send a favorable recommendation to the City Council for the acquisition of 20 Martin Drive.
Second. Sorry. Second.
Were you done?
That was it.
Okay. It ended with a question mark, not an exclamation point. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Roger Dupree?
Yes.
Michael Marcotte?
No.
Lucy Bisson, yes. Mark Roy?
Yes.
Shanna Cox?
Yes.
Alexander Pine?
Yes.
And Penthea Burns?
Yes.
Thank you. I do have 2 items of other business that I wanted to bring up. One is seeing if there's an update on the request to meet with Complete Streets, particularly some of the discussion tonight. We made that request previously. If you do not have an update, we would encourage it to be ahead of the capital improvement presentation so that maybe we could be thinking and planning with that in mind.
Remind me, this board wants to meet with all of the Complete Streets Committee. So are you looking to go to one of their meetings, or what is it?
I think the request was made for us to meet, and you were going to look to determine, because of our requirements, if it was going to be here or not, and suggest how and when that would happen.
Okay. And then as I communicate to them your interest is talking to them about process for how working together, or what are you looking to?
I believe the question was to look at their priorities and to understand their planning mechanisms as we factor in pedestrian movement into our overall planning strategies.
Okay.
Yeah, so what I recall from the request was that we would learn about sort of their planning goals for streets, because they also handle automotive traffic as well. And we would talk to them about what we've done to sort of overhaul our various zones and districts and our intentions on growth, just so that when they're making decisions, they know what we're up to, and when we're making decisions, we have sort of a basic idea of what they're up to. and to hopefully facilitate a relationship where we get to know them well enough and start to work together more, so that things like tonight, where we're talking about this, this intersection that's not the responsibility of either developer, gets addressed through the proper channel, which is them. So we can sort of coordinate what's on our agenda with them and keep each other up to date, so that we're working together and doing the right things.
Okay, yeah, happy to reach out. Do want to let you know that staff in the last 5-6 months, we've started working differently with them. So previously, planning board projects weren't really going to them for review. So we started over the summer at some point reaching out to the chair, essentially, because they only meet every other month at this point, to provide projects that we've flagged as having some pedestrian or other traffic impact or relevance. Most of the time to say, hey, is this something you guys are interested in commenting on or not? In the case of 20 East Avenue, the chair did attend our scoping meeting and has provided comments to our third-party engineer. So at least the chair's thoughts and comments were provided. I don't know behind the scenes how much they reached out to members, but yeah, happy to reach out to them about scheduling a time to get together.
They did reach out to members. I heard about this project.
Oh, good.
I was sort of like, when's it going to come to us? Because I've been hearing about it over the past couple of weeks. So
Okay, good.
Glad to have seen
I'm
it.
glad that there was some behind-the-scenes communication.
Yes.
But, yeah.
But this was all informal, and I'm looking to formalize it.
Okay.
No longer talking over the dinner table about comparing our agendas.
Gotcha.
The second item that I wanted to lift up is just kind of overall schedule / holiday schedule. I know that our agenda states that we meet December 8th. I believe you're not anticipating a second meeting in December, is that right?
No, we are expecting the 22nd of December. We
Hot
have
take.
agenda items. Yes, sorry, folks.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
That one a month for the last couple of months, really.
I know.
Getcha.
That was a good stretch.
I'd like to poll really quickly, are folks on the planning board available that night and not leaving town for that holiday week? I don't want us to, I see nodding, yes, that's available
Here.
nodding.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, happy holidays,
Crap.
we'll see you then. Can you remind us, we'll have new counselors, but not any, I'm trying to make sure that if we have any term limits coming up, folks are flagging that they're seeking their applications.
We have 3 people who are termed out. Roger is termed out, Amy is termed out, and, well, not termed out, but their
So I was
terms
gonna
are
clarify,
empty.
so if their term is ending, they need to reapply.
Correct. So there's Roger, there's Amy, and Penthea that need to reapply. Their terms end on January 6th.
So I'd like to make the request that staff directly reaches out to all people coming up on a term limit with a link to the form and that no one's caught off guard, because we have a little bit of history of that. Yeah.
No.
What?
Almost didn't show up one time because I didn't know it was the thing I needed to do. No one told me I was done.
Point of inquiry, I
Yep.
guess. None. I've been under the impression that last December, 3 of us got reappointed. It was Lucy, myself, and Roger.
No, I didn't get appointed last year. My term expires next year.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, we changed officers at the start of the year.
Yeah, I
don't
know
if that's-
that, but.
Yeah,
But I thought it was 3 people last year.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know, whatever, charter change, yada, yada. Just, will you check in on, give us an update on December 8th between now and then? Make sure folks who are terming out are both made aware and that the application link is received by them.
Yes, we will.
Hey, public, always express your interest in upcoming any councils or committees that you might, boards. And then when do we expect the capital improvement
6 years.
fund to kick off?
That's usually end of January. Or, well, January. It's January, February. So we usually have
Yeah.
a meeting in January and a meeting in
They
February.
like welcome
where
new
we talk about
counselors
it.
and then finance and
Hit
the
'em right away
administrators
with it.
get them straight, yeah.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, that's usually the way it goes.
Okay. Just giving folks that heads up, but also naming it as it relates to some of the conversations we asked specifically about. It means that your timeline will be short to meet some of our desires and they've been noted previously. So would love it in concert with the capital improvement process, if not in advance. Any other business? Other. Then would be moving to reading of the minutes with a motion to adopt the October 27th, 2025 draft minutes being sought.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Oh, close. Thank you, Mr. Marcotte. Any discussion or changes to the minutes that are needed to be noted? Call the roll.
Roger Dupree.
Yep.
Michael Marcotte.
Yep.
Mark Roy.
Yes.
Shanna Cox. Alexander Pine.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Lucy
you missed
Bisson.
yourself.
I forgot myself. Yes, Lucy Bisson, yes.
And then Pythia.
And then Penthea Birds.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right.
And we're adjourned.
And
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
yes.
Enjoy your